Has your manager now told you that you need to be using AI as part of your job? Or do you feel like you've been told or it's mandated to become more productive as an organization with the use of AI? Or maybe you just feel the pressure of trying to keep up with everything that's going on in the AI land for your job? Well, if so, this video is for you. Well, the goal of this course is to make sure that you become more comfortable with the use of AI, to make sure that you're always in a six-figure, if not multi-six-figure job. So you don't become replaced by AI, but empowered by it. This course will help regardless of your job title or your seniority, whether you're junior or senior later in life, whether you're a go-to-market expert, product marketing manager, growth marketer, demand gen. I teach by principles, and this course is based on principles that will help you get some insight for you to implement into your role today. This course is going to cover 5 sections, starting with your goal, systems thinking, scalability, tactics, and Q&A. And to make this course more valuable to you, there is a complimentary workbook linked down below in the description for you to download, kicking off with your goal. AI product managers are earning anywhere between $300,000 to $1 million, and it is wild to think of, but you can too. At least you can boost your income through the use of AI. And as a coach, my goal for you is always to be respected, valued, paid more, and feel stable and secure in your role, especially if you work in tech, where you know what the layoffs have been like, you know what the job market is like right now. So my goal as a coach is to make sure that you have the fundamentals to always push your career in the direction that you want. So I don't want you to do more for the sake of it. I want you to do what is required for you to make sure that you become a linchpin in your organization so you get the career and the fulfillment and the salary out of it that you desire. The goal is to be given promotions without begging for it, not being let go with every round that's happening. And I know that few of you, especially that I've coached, have had 3 or 4 rounds of layoffs before finally coming to me and we were like, okay, let's put a plan together. So the goal of this and the goal of anything in life is not to just do more work for the sake of it, is to do the right work. And the right work, by definition, is the work that matters to the organization, which I will go into depth in the systems thinking portion of this course. But fundamentally, using AI right can do that. It can make sure that you're working on the right stuff and making sure that you have the biggest impact in your career. Because whether you work at this organization or you decide to move to a new one, the goal is you have the skills that you can take wherever you go. Even if you decide to go down the fractional or the consulting route, you have the skills set within you, like a piece of software that you are, like a product that you can take and you can leverage in discussions moving forward. So the concept of a 10x engineer exists, and I believe that you can become the 10x of your job role. So I'm going to use the example of a product marketing manager, which I am, and I coach product marketing managers and other people, but hey, you know. But fundamentally, your goal should be absolutely rooted in making sure that you drive your career, that your career goes in the direction that you want, that you make sure that you're working on the launches, the projects, the initiatives at work that will drive you in the direction that you want for your career. So it's not just about learning a little bit of like tactics or hacks or whatever the case may be that usually is orientated with the use of AI. But actually, it's around how can you use this to make sure that your life becomes better because of it. That's it, fundamentally, if we break it down. Because otherwise, if you work at an organization that's like, hey, we're not implementing AI right now, we're under regulation, like there's red tape here, or an organization is like, we're anti-AI, we're not going to adopt it. Or maybe they say, we don't have budget for our department to implement AI tools. Unfortunately, it means that you cannot rely on your current company for you to move forward. You cannot rely on them to progress. Your goal should always be, how can I use my learnings and invest in myself and make sure that I'm pushing my career forward regardless of whatever has been decided by this organization. So luckily, if you work at an organization that really fosters growth and fosters innovation, then you'll be able to learn about AI whilst doing your job. Now, if you work at an organization that doesn't have that good culture, or that mindset, which is weird to me, but hey ho, some organizations need to go bust and be left in the lurches. So maybe that's one of them. But the organizations that aren't pushing for you to learn AI, you need to do it, unfortunately, in your downtime or in your spare time. If you are not using your spare time in order to level up and to learn new skills that will move you forward in your career, wherever you want to go, you are doing yourself a disservice and you're allowing your employer to dictate where you go. Does that make sense? The goal is always to fundamentally own your freaking career, own it in both your hands. This is why when I coach people and they're like, I've been laid off again, and I'm like, there's a pattern here. There's a systemic pattern that we need to break. And that's why this course has been mindfully curated to make sure that it's not just about the fact of learning a random bit of information that you're like, oh, that was nice. Yeah, that was great. You're basically entertaining yourself through educational content. My goal with everything that I've created, and my goodness, I'm ranting now, but let's just flow with it. My goal with everything that I create, including my challenge, including my coaching, is always orientated around frigging action, always around action. It's not about just like sitting there or just clicking next, 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 and then getting a little certification at the end of it. And you're like, wow, I'm so accomplished. I have this random digital certification which literally means nothing, but it has my name on it and a little stamp. It's like, what are you talking? Like, what are you doing? Like, get a grip. The goal is all around action. So I want you to continue with this course with the mindset of action, with your goal in mind. Your goal for your career, not my career, your career, is for you to fundamentally move yourself in the direction that you want, whether it be earn freaking big money or whether it be working on projects that really matter and actually create shifts and changes in this world, or maybe something that you fundamentally care about, or whatever the case may be. Even if it's just like to give your kids a better life, to give your family a better life, for you to be able to not care about whether there's layoffs or whatever. You're like, I'm good, like I'm solid, I know that I can land like 10 other jobs like in the next few months, like it's cool. So fundamentally your goal should be at the root of this, and I'm hitting this point hard at the start of this, which some of you might be snowflakes and you're like, I'm out of here, I'm not listening to this crazy curly haired lady who's just like going ham on me right now. But I say this because I care, it's true, and no one else has the balls to say it. All they want to do is plow you with information that you're not going to do anything with. You're going to entertain yourself for a few hours and be like, oh, that was nice. What's for dinner? And then nothing changes at work. And you're like, why is nothing changing? Or why can't I get a promotion? Or blah, blah, blah. So put your goal at the top of a piece of paper or on your notes app. Make sure that it's fundamentally at the front of your mind, which is like, is my goal to get a promotion right now? Is my goal to land a new job? Is my goal to XYZ? And therefore, how can I use my learnings and my skill set within AI to push me towards that direction, to make it more feasible, to make it more possible, to make it an absolute guarantee, or at least 99% of it. So that's all I'm going to say on that. That is your goal. Have a think, because no one is going to care about your career as much as you are. Your job and your manager and your employer does not care about your career as much as you should. You do. And therefore, you need to focus on it. Okay, I don't even know if I'm going to keep that in. It's like one of those rants that I share with my clients. But when it comes to the real world, I know that people just want to be pandered to. And I'm like, there's no pandering in this world, especially with the use of AI, which will absolutely disrupt. Absolutely. If not, it's already disrupting like markets. So let's get into it. Hey, real quick, before we jump back into the video, I want to say two things. Firstly, thank you for watching. It seriously means a lot that you're here, but did you know that 85% of people who watch my YouTube channel aren't subscribed? Which means that there's a high probability that you aren't subscribed either. So if you're enjoying this video right now and you haven't subscribed yet, I would highly encourage you to subscribe. It would help a lot more other PMMs find out about the channel and upskill and uplevel themselves as well. Secondly, if you're a product marketing manager who feels overlooked, underpaid, and just not respected the way you feel you should be at work, I want to encourage you to join me in a very special online experience called the Profitable PMM Challenge. It's a special 5-day live coaching experience where I will take you through the exact system that I've used in my career and for my clients to help position you as a more respected, more valued, and higher paid PMM without burning out, having to beg anyone for a promotion, or waiting for someone else to value you. Whether you want to grow in your current role or position yourself for a promotion, raise, or a new job, I would encourage you to join the Profitable PMM Challenge. You'll get daily trainings, practical exercises, and if you go VIP, you will have an additional 1-hour live coaching call with me to have your specific questions answered. The link is in the description or the show notes. Check it out, and I will see you inside the Profitable PMM Challenge. Now, let's get back to the video. Now, let's talk about systems thinking. Systems thinking will be at the absolute heart of this course, and it's because I want your mindset to change from AI as a tool or set of tools to AI is a system. It is a system on which other facets of your job sit upon. And the system at hand is your leverage, how you can create a 160-hour week out of your 40-hour week. That, my friend, is called leverage. So the lowest level of leverage is using, for example, ChatGPT and doing things manually or with additional support on top. And then the highest leverage way is implementing tools which then do some of your manual work, if not all of it, maybe the tactics. And therefore, it allows you to create 3 people out of your one role. And therefore, you're aligning your incentives with the incentives of the business, which is the business is always looking to reduce costs, maximize profit, maximize EBITDA. So that's the highest leverage way where you're implementing tools, AI tools that will help enable you to create more, if not better, if not speedier, if not more hours out of your current hours versus the lowest leverage way, which is still doing things manually. So the goal is to create the highest leverage way to create the most value out of your product marketing efforts. A healthy mindset to have is rooted in curiosity and just trying things out. Nothing bad will come from just trying tools out, just seeing what happens. And therefore, actually, ironically, once you start trying out different tools, your confidence builds. It builds slowly and you're like, wow, okay, this is amazing. But also, there's no right or wrong way when using AI right now. And especially when implementing systems, tools, whatever the case may be. Because here's the thing, you've been programmed since a very young age that failure is a bad thing. You've been programmed, and I've been programmed to think that failure is bad from school, from parents, from even work. Like, you're not meant to fail, right? That's why when Google implemented their fail fast value, everyone was like, what the heck? What do you mean? Like, failure is a good thing? When actually failure is what gets you towards success. Thomas Edison, 1,000 failures, created the light bulb. So if you fail fast, often you just try things out and you move forwards, you're actually failing forwards, which is actually a really good thing because you start to reprogram your mind to say, okay, I'm learning in a different way, I'm building up my confidence, but also you're utilizing tools which are now going to move you in a very different way in your career, where previously in your career, you were programmed to say, okay, I'll go to university, I'll download a ton of information into my brain, and then that is what becomes valuable. When now it's no longer the case. It's kind of like your information has been removed by AI and AI sits outside of you and the information sits outside of you. Now you are the director, you are the facilitator, you are like the manager of AI tools that then does the work for you, but even sometimes has the information. But you are the strategist, you are the puppet master of all these little AI tools that you are now puppeteering beneath you. So failure and not being a perfectionist and being someone who's curious and a tinkerer and you see yourself as like a scientist or an experimenter is actually a really healthy mindset to have. But also, once you start building up real confidence around AI, maybe you become the person who then suggests to your organization or your department, let's do a hackathon, let's do an AI spearheaded project, let's like have fun with it, but also let's see what realized revenue dent that this can have in this organization. So you become the person who's now like, oh, you're the AI forward thinker in the organization, which only comes from tinkering, from being an experimenter, and from building up your confidence through trying. And if you're like, well, Hattie, we don't have budget, I don't have budget, or I just have ChatGPT right now. Well, listen to Sarah. Sarah spoke at my London event that I throw monthly here for product marketing managers, and she only uses one tool. So listen to her and her take on it. Sarah, you told me that you only use one AI tool, partly by choice and because you're a solo PMM with limited time and budget. What is that one tool and how do you use it? And have you tested out others?
So I'm sure everybody can guess which one it is.
What's the guess?
There you go.
There we go.
You know what? There's some amazing AI tools out there. They are. And I've heard from a lot of other people here at previous calls, but also from other PMMs and colleagues that there's lots of fun things out there. But yeah, like Hattie was saying, no budget. But also, I don't really have the time. So ChatGPT has been beneficial for being my sparring partner. I mean, if you're by yourself, you're your only product marketer. I work for a company with 80 people, with a small marketing team that, you know, they're amazing. # love the marketing team at Blink. You know,
wink, wink,
wink, wink.
Promotion, please.
Yes. No, I do. I love collaborating with them, but we're all so super busy, which means I am sometimes just looking to brain dump, literally. So I'll have like, I'm this person that thinks about 20 things at the same time. I'm sure lots of you guys do that as well, which is why we're good at our job, right? But I sometimes just need somebody to structure it, right? I want to send an email. This is everything that needs to be in there. Can you just structure out? So that's one thing I really use ChatGPT for. And going from the free one to the paid one has actually been immensely beneficial. Don't know if any of you have the paid one, but it allows you to have projects. And projects have changed my life because it allows you to at least tell ChatGPT what you wanted to do in that project. Meaning, for example, one of the things I use it a lot for, I write the release notes. I don't know if all of you guys do that, but that's one of my many responsibilities. So I write 2 types of release notes. One is for our API, the other one is for our platform. I've told ChatGPT what I want it to look like, what kind of voice this customer or this reader needs, what kind of information, what style, how much technical insight or know-how the audience has. And I kind of go through the tickets on DevOps, read them through, shove it in, copy paste, and then I say in advance, I do help it a little bit, saying this is API related, this is platform related, click enter, and then probably need another, you know, I would say an hour of rewrites. But instead of spending about 3 to 5 hours actually writing it well, I'm just doing a rewrite. So that how actually, like, I need to write a release note at least once every 2 weeks. A lot more generally. And as I said, it's one of my many responsibilities that actually really helps me. The other piece that recently helped me a lot, I just recently did a ICP project, an ideal customer profile. I interviewed lots and lots of people. I downloaded or exported the transcripts and I uploaded it onto ChatGPT. I used deep search, which actually takes quite a few hours, but gives you some real insights. I didn't use it as this is everything, but I kind of used it to take out some of my ideas, in essence saying, hey, I think X, Y, Z, but actually did they say that? Is it not me filling that in? So I use it as like my second sense, and that has, honestly, those are my 2 extremely useful ones. The one thing I do want to say about ChatGPT, they recently released 5. I don't know if any of you guys had been super annoyed, but I have been.
Why is that?
5, I've had like lots of conversations with ChatGPT since it's released because it's not doing exactly what I wanted to do. It has combined a few things, but the truth is, and that's what I wanted to say, and that's why I'm mentioning it, ChatGPT is as good as your prompt. So you can't, it's not going to think for you. You need to think what you want to get out of it. And so the last example I want to give is we recently had a restructure of our sales departments, and they are now in pods with different verticals that they are looking at. So one of the pods asked me, hey, Sarah, can you ask ChatGPT to map, they gave me like these country codes, like different locations in the UK. Can you color code it? And I send it in and I send it back to them, and they're like, yes, Sarah, this is not what I want. And I'm like, okay, so what do you want? Can you just actually write down what you're looking for? And they're like, oh, we're actually 3 members and we want to color coordinate it based on our different people. These are, this person is having X, Y, Z, this person having this part of the UK, and so on. Prompt it into ChatGPT and you actually get what you want. So in essence, and that's what I want to say, is whichever AI you're using, and I'm sure and I know there's tons of better ones, you need to actually think. Like, don't use it to do your work, do it to improve your work.
Yeah, that's so good. And speaking of the pods, is that across the organization or just marketing specific?
Oh no, this is sales specific.
Okay, sales specific, gotcha. Okay, interesting. And you're 100% correct. Who here has found it where you have to prompt correctly to get something of use out of ChatGPT 5 or? Yes, okay. All the hands, basically. My previous video on YouTube, I actually put out how I've used ChatGPT 5 to then build out a product marketing dashboard. You've watched it, right? And it's really interesting. It garnered like hundreds of people to watch it within like the first 24 hours. But one of the things I mentioned as part of it, which I learned from a podcast on AI, is if you threaten ChatGPT 5, you actually get a better outcome out of it. So you actually have to threaten it and be like, I will sell you to like, well, I'm not going to say it. Well, okay, I said it in the previous video. Like the example is tell ChatGPT 5 that you're going to sell it to the Russians or something like that. So really threaten it and you'll get a good outcome out of it. So I'm like, okay, well, prompting is literally everything. Okay, I love that. So another healthy approach is around prioritization. The best way to figure out what is a priority right now is to ask yourself this: what is the biggest constraint in the organization right now? Or what is the biggest constraint within the business, within the remit of my job, like product marketing, right now? For example, is it that discovery calls have a really low conversion rate and therefore your focus has a narrow focus to solve that? That is the biggest constraint that we're working towards right now. And therefore, you can justify using resources, including yourself as a resource, but also AI to tackle this project head on. Because if you know that if we unlock this, this will add significant revenue to the organization, then we need to double down on absolutely nuking our biggest constraint right now. And ironically, if you just focus on the biggest constraint with absolute full veracity and you don't spread yourself too thin across other different random bits of projects, then you actually get to the goal faster of whatever the organizational goal is, whether it's revenue, saving customers, getting more customers, blah, 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 blah. If you focus on one at a time, unblocking one constraint at a time and not moving on to the next one before the first one is solved, then ironically, by taking your time, you actually speed up the rate of progress over a year. So you can then use AI workflows, systems, tools, etc. to enable you to unblock this one biggest constraint that is on your plate right now. And therefore, with your manager's permission, you can devote your mind share to it, especially if your manager is vouching for you and has your back. And therefore, they can speak to why your focus is there to hire executives, private equity, etc., etc. So then we take the daunting task of AI implementation and adoption across everything. Everything needs to have AI with, let's just start with incremental changes and baby steps of utilizing AI in different facets of my job that then enable me to add value to the organization. The organization then values you as part of it, but also you're making sure you're becoming more stable as part of your role. Because once again, as a coach, my goal is to make sure that you become stable and you have a career that you're like, I haven't just been used by this organization to build out AI workflows and AI systems. So I have a client who literally told me that the end of this year, the goal is to let at least 40% of their workforce go and have AI replace them. That was literally mandated from the private equity firm involved. And therefore, her question to me was, how do I make sure I remain in the 60%? So your goal should always be that, which is fundamentally, I want to add value at this organization. I want to build out baby steps that then build out workflows and systems that have it on autopilot that is adding tons of value. But equally, the question should be, I want this organization to question if if you if you are let go and you go to a competitor, will they really regret it? And therefore, if you can heighten that feeling of we would absolutely lose out if this person is let go or if they go to a competing company, then you know you've set up something really strong here. Therefore, it actually plays to your favor in your career whilst also doing a really good job. So fundamentally, it's all around unblocking the biggest constraint and linking everything to the outcome that the organization wants. And I'm going to show you an example of product marketing manager Billy, who did exactly this. First question comes to you, Billy, who, by the way, is the first panelist who's come on for the second time, because I'm like, dude, I have so much to learn from you. Like, let's go. So you've been building AI tools for your sales team as a PMM, and you told me as a result, you're now saving 3 to 4 hours per week per sales team member. But on top of that, you built an AI tool that you yourself created and has become widely adopted by the sales team in your organization. How did you do it? Share the magics, share the secrets, and how were you able to measure the time saving?
So I guess the tool that I was referring to there was essentially an AI-powered tool that helps our sales team map customer pain points to our portfolio of products that we have at Multiverse. So we're an apprenticeships provider across data, AI, engineering, and leadership. So we have a lot of different programs. And so the basic functionality of it is a sales rep drops their kind of Gong transcript into this kind of AI bot. And it will then kind of do an analysis. It's trained on all of our programs, and it will align kind of best fit programs for them, draft follow-up comms, position some of those programs together if we have already kind of got positioning for them, and it kind of just pulls that from a central place. I think the key thing that I did there was just working with the end user right from the beginning, right? So I knew I was building this for the sales team. I didn't know this was exactly the tool that I was going to build, but we knew that sort of solution mapping was something that we could automate. We know that there was a very manual process for like a sales rep to kind of go back to their Gong call, listen through it, like try to kind of write down like where they think the potential pain points are. These are kind of very manual and repeatable things. And if they're manual and repeatable, there's definitely some potential wiggle room there for AI tooling and an AI solution. So I did that, made like a very sort of initial version of that and found like a willing sort of sales leader who was going to champion that, like a regional director at Multiverse. We then kind of enabled just 7 people on it out of our sort of 80-ish team of sales reps. Got a ton of feedback. Turns out the first thing that I built, there was lots of things to be desired about it. It hadn't completely hit the nail on the head. But over the next like few weeks, we had like a ton of really, really awesome feedback. And because it's a no-code tool, I was able to move really, really quickly in developing something that they actually kind of did want and were going to use. In terms of uptake, we use Guru as like the internal wiki for like our sales team. So like just dropping the right resources at the right time. So we could kind of see how many times the resource had been kind of summoned by a sales rep, how many times they were using it. We did the full team enablement on, I think, April 14th. And since then, we've had about 1,500 uses of that tool. So like a lot of uses per person, maybe like 20 plus on average. But obviously we have our power users that have used it kind of dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And then people that are just sort of getting to grips, maybe a bit more nervous with AI adoption, right? That's still like a thing across all different parts of the organization. But yeah, that's the main way that we track it. And even today, right, still continuing to refine that, especially as we launch new products, do new things. We want to kind of keep that functionality up to date. And I can, because it's a no-code tool, and I'm a non-technical person, and I can move quite quickly with that. That was very long-winded, sorry.
No, that was amazing. That wasn't long-winded, was it? No, that was amazing. What was the no-code tool that you used to build out this functionality?
Yeah, so has anyone heard of Cassidy at the moment. Okay, so it's I think they're US-based, really, really awesome tool for like low, no-code users like me, where you can kind of use AI, use automation. Has great integration with Zapier as well, so you can kind of like have those different tools team up. Essentially trained sort of knowledge base in Cassidy on all of our kind of core product information, and that's kind of like the brain behind this AI bot. And then through a series of kind of prompts, this is quite similar to like a Gemini gem, actually, if anyone's kind of used Gemini gems. I actually have recreated that same thing in Gemini, so it can also work as a gem, but Cassidy was the kind of the right tool for this time. I was also very new to Cassidy and used this as kind of my learning curve to understand Cassidy a little bit better. So yeah, that's kind of how we've used it, but I know that budgets, and especially for solo PMMs, like that can also be a thing. Gemini also is a real possibility for this kind of functionality. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Billy. Use AI to become smarter and not dumber. It's about you not using it as like an input, output, basic use and functionality of AI, but it's about how can this strategically make me more strategic and make me smarter and fundamentally better at my job. And your goal should be to treat AI as an intern. This is an intern that is going to help me with my job, with my career, and is going to assist me, as opposed to it doing everything that you're doing and for you to be like, I want to shut down my brain, and then use AI to replace it, which fundamentally is not going to help you, but it's going to hinder you. And the goal is not for you to self-sabotage yourself through the use of AI. The goal is for you to become smarter and create more leverage out of your intelligence, more leverage out of your strategy, more leverage out of your work, the highest level of leverage. So then the organization gets value, but also you do too. And then also to use AI in your advantage to showcase your work. And I've created a previous video training all around how to build out a product marketing dashboard that shows your value as a PMM. So if you're interested, give a watch. I have the link somewhere around this video, or I'll link it in the description as well. And the caveat is you have to be good at what you do already, because AI, all it does is it scales out what you're currently doing and also your systems that you already have, whether you're doing it manually or slightly assisted right now. Then there's a difference between being proactive and reactive when it comes to quality, scalability, and efficiency. So when it comes to the proactive, AI can really help with this, which means scouring the internet for information, updating things, or maybe doing some admin tasks, or anything that you proactively do on a weekly or daily basis that you're like, I wish that something else could just handle this. That's proactive admin or searching or the research, or like just passing information for you to read later, etc. And then the reactive is, for example, an RFP just landed on your desk and you're like, right, I need to get into this. I need to research. I need to look into this. I'm reacting to this work that has just come in. That can't necessarily be used or have a system with AI that automatically just automates something that comes in. It might further down the line, but when it comes to the reactive work, that's where your power and your intelligence should shine. And here's an example of that in action. What does your decision-making process look like when deciding what parts of your work to delegate to AI versus do yourself? Sarah?
For me, a big thing is what I enjoy. I mean, it is really, if my manager watches this, the reason why I'm still working at my company, even though I'm being underpaid, because I enjoy what I do, right?
Tell them.
I really enjoy what our company does. And so, for example, release notes, I'm just giving that as an example. Again, I don't love it. I love talking, for example, about objection handling, or talking, for example, we have integrations into Xero and QuickBooks. And they are slightly different, and our sales finds it really tough actually to talk about them, because one thing one does and the other one does the other thing, and they mix up quite easily, really, unfortunately. So talking with them and writing them really some scripts on say this or say that. Sometimes finding a few different ways of saying that, actually shoving into ChatGPT actually helps. And I don't love writing that out. So that really helps. I think in the end, for me, my biggest thing, and I actually asked ChatGPT this question before, like, am I allowing you to do my work, or am I using you to do my work? And I think that's a difference to me, and that's where I'm trying to find the balance.
Yeah, that's such a good metric to think in our heads. Are we allowing them to help us in our work versus using?
I was just going to add, I think for me, what's going to help with my own kind of professional development, and like what am I interested in learning more about? I don't know if working on the sort of the pipeline generation piece that I've got involved with at Multiverse was exactly what our PMM role should have been doing at the time. But you know, I'd done these stakeholder interviews. I'd seen an opportunity, made a business case. No one else was working on it. And I kind of, you know, that kind of got me an opportunity, and I now sit in the GTM team, and I like to think that a lot of that effort kind of paid off in that regard. So yeah, I think go where your kind of professional development kind of steers you as well. Just make sure you can kind of defend that time or that resource allocation that you might need.
On my side, I might sound not that popular, but I already made this decision. What is the AI part? What is not? And while it really equips me with some knowledge, helps me with the research, what I will never allow, and quite strict, is not communicate through ChatGPT and through AI, none with internal or external customer. What does it mean? Meaning that I won't create emails, final copies, articles, messaging and positioning with AI. I will ask prompts that will enable me to put this data together, to summarize, to give me some information I'm not holding. But we're now in the era where AI everywhere, and you don't want to put it in, I don't want at least to put it in the conversation with my users, personas, and also internal customers, because one of the reasons for that, it's clearly seen. It's seen when you generated some copy with AI. More than this, there is plenty of software that now can distinguish was this piece of content generated with AI or not. And my suggestion to use it to enable you, but not speak for you. Otherwise, imagine it would be just communication of two AI agents. I'm sending email to someone or publishing the copy, and someone else on that end just taking this piece of information, put in his AI agent, and says generate the answer. And that's what the conversation will look like. I would probably don't want to do this, and I'm pretty sure that soon we're going to see changes in campaign management and searches where the AI-generated content will be omitted, will be not prioritized. So yeah, my answer for a final copy for communication, this is not the best choice.
So good. I love these like different takes on AI and product marketing, and I am personally super excited to see where it goes in terms of Google ranking versus AI search ranking. I feel like that's going to be the next play for us, and getting our tools actually into AI search ranking. Great PMMs know that you're not measured by the work that you do, but by the outcomes. For example, is the outcome out of the work you've done higher LTV, lifetime value? Is it more revenue? Is it reducing churn? Is it higher product adoption? Is it customer retention, etc., etc., etc.? When it's linked to usually money, that's the outcome that you want, and that's the outcome that you navigate towards. A mediocre PMM tracks what it is they're doing. For example, I did a launch, I did this, I did that. So if you then use AI to scale out the tasks that don't move the needle, all you're doing is you're scaling out your mediocrity. Now, if you're a PMM who uses AI to do the tasks that actually move the needle to get the outcome that the organization wants, then you're scaling out your mastery. So you're moving from scaling out your mediocrity, which is tasks that literally don't matter because they do not move the needle, they do not lead to outcomes that the business cares about, versus scaling out your mastery. And that is the route that you should be focusing on. Too many PMMs think that just doing is the task, when actually it's all around what is the outcome that comes out of it. So I would highly encourage you to think about this as the mindset for the basis of your systems thinking around when it comes to using AI. It's around, will this scale out my mastery? So therefore, it's not just about the quantity of the work that you're doing and the tasks that you're completing, etc., but it's about the quality and the impact of the work that you're doing. And I'm going to show you an example of when I asked this to really senior PMMs and what their take was. How are you measuring the impact of AI in your PMM work? Not just time saved, but in outcomes like messaging precision, campaign performance, or sales enablement.
So I think one of the most recent projects that I'm working on is like a pipeline generation co-pilot for our sales team, kind of automate customer and company research and then provide them with like a cold outreach, cold call transcript or, a LinkedIn DM or an email that automates all of that kind of research that they could in theory spend, 30 minutes per prospect trawling the web for all of the financial reports or on the company or social media posts, and we kind of built again through Cassidy, but this can be done through a variety of different tools, kind of a step-by-step research process. And so with this one, aside from the kind of the sales co-pilot tool that I mentioned earlier, we're moving, I guess, away from time savings as a measure of success, and we're now looking at conversion because we can see quite quickly, did that cold outreach message land you a discovery call? And so this is one that is very, very early days for us right now, but we are seeing a couple of our sales reps getting like face-to-face meetings with prospects off the back of these, off the back of this kind of research, and it's pulling out potentially, sort of deep research in terms of like company posts and tethering that maybe to like a success story or a use case that we have that product marketing has put together. And like tying those things together and calling things out that you wouldn't necessarily have looked at if you just kind of scraped the web yourself quite manually. And again, it's doing this for dozens and dozens of prospects per week. So at the moment, we're just working with a small number of our sales reps to kind of build that out. But conversion now is something that we're looking at too, beyond just time saving, where sometimes time saving obviously is great, and that's one that we can often quantify with AI tools. But it's like, what are you then doing with that time? Like, did you create an extra manual task with that AI thing that you just built? But like, what are other metrics that you can use? So I think for me, kind of beyond time saving, like conversion now is one that we're actually looking at as something that these tools are being able to nudge.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question. How do you then qualify the sales reps to use as part of a project like this? Because as you said, you're starting off with a small group of sales, and then you're obviously going to roll it out once it's all in action and it all works, which is amazing. Are you starting with like the strongest salespeople? Are you starting with the mid-level or the juniors? Talk us about your qualifications for who to use as part of the sales.
Yeah, I think nosiness is on my part is definitely one of the key kind of skills that I'm using here when figuring out the right people to work with. I spend a lot of time just talking to our sales reps and trying to understand what does their working week look like. There's 45 or so hours. Where are the manual tasks? And in so doing, they might reference some of their peers. They might say, well, we spend a lot of time doing customer research, pipeline generation. And I say, great, like what do you use? And then as I kind of get into the weeds of the several hours per week that might do that, it seems like there's a lot of manual, a lot of repeatable things. And again, as I said earlier, that to me seems like that's an AI disruption kind of area. So yeah, it's a lot of kind of like word of mouth around from talking to my initial couple of sales reps and then kind of working around. But then, we've got Slack, we've got LinkedIn. It's quite easy to kind of get a sense of who is thinking about AI, not just in our sales team, but across the wider business. And I think I've been kind of positioning this as I will kind of always go and speak to the sales reps. There are so many people at Multiverse that are very, very AI enabled, like just within product marketing, outside of product marketing, who are just amazing thought partners and sort of sparring partners that I get to have, as well as the AI tools that I work with. So usually a lot of names come up and I can kind of go there. But what I'm really looking for is someone who is like eager to use AI regardless of how new they are to it, and that will actually give me some regular feedback.
Okay, I love that. Kate?
I would add on this a thing which is, I don't know, if it's obvious or not. For me, it wasn't before. The win-loss rate is quite a usual, normal thing to follow. But what I found is that it directly represents how appealing is your messaging. And if you're seeing that like a few, like for the last quarter, obviously all companies should do those roundups when they're checking like the reasons for losing the deals. If you don't do this, please do. And if you are seeing that the customer like asked questions and just disappeared and was like, or dropped or whatever, and then I started digging into the conversation, into transcripts, and I see that customers tend to ask unusual questions, or like start dropping the objections. But what if it does this? What if I can't reach that? So tell me, for example, this feature of these competitors. What if I will use this? Wouldn't it better? So what I found it very useful is to add the objections handling to every messaging and positioning I'm having, and that was like really improved. And my sales team would not sometimes even read the whole position and the messaging. They would go straight to objections handling. I will find out every possible objections that the customer can bring, that the lead can bring to the table, and make sure I addressed it with engineers, with the products, with the right proof point and data, so they can save themselves on the call. And that is, I would say, quite huge for positioning and messaging estimation.
So good. And do you use a AI tool to extract the new objection that might come up on, let's say, a gong call or a different call, and then it passes into a document, and then you look at that to then update in the messaging? Or is that still the manual aspect?
No, it's still the AI, the part of my AI research, versus when I'm doing every messaging, I'm putting the objections handling as a separate part. But then I would follow on the lost deals and identify what the bump was there, what we didn't navigate properly, and we'll include it. But if you will write, like if you will ask ChatGPT the right prompt, like as you mentioned earlier, you don't want to have the yes man there. And I'm always trying to talk with the AI from the position like a buyer. But what is better here? What if I want to save money? What if I want more performance? What if I just don't like this? And it will give you absolutely all possible objections why you shouldn't use this software, why the competitors is better. So just dig from the perspective of the customer and try to choose the tool for yourself, like you are choosing, I don't know, the shoes, the house, and estimating all the options. And it will give you all the options, and so it's a part of AI research.
That's so good. And one thing that I would add to that is if we as PMMs lean towards the buyer who needs high information, so basically the high information buyer versus the low information buyer, if we can lean more towards what does the high information buyer need, what are their objections, what are their specific blockers that would come up, or who do they need to speak to in the buying process, if you can lean that far into the spectrum, then the easy low information buyers, you're going to get them, you're going to capture them. So I think that's such a good point. There's a concept called product sense that is typically used by product managers, and it's the ability to discern or have taste when it comes to what to build. And that is something that I highly encourage you to start building that muscle towards. And feel free to Google it if you want to go more in depth into product sense, because the ability to judge the output and the accuracy of what has come out of AI, for example, the hallucinations that come out of it, is going to be super important. Therefore, you know that you're not putting out detrimental information or incorrect information to other team members for the organization, etc. But you have the sense and the wherewithal to know that you need to implement guardrails. Guardrails absolutely need to be fundamentally brought in to the system of making sure that you do not put out incorrect information or anything that could lead to legal problems, incorrect information, customer data, etc., etc. So the ability to have the sense and the wherewithal for this is super important. And beautifully, to release some pressure here, artificial intelligence cannot be replaced by human intelligence. And this is super key because you're the person who can ask, so what? Why should they care? Why does this matter? And then also you take into account all of the moving parts in the organization. Where AI looks very siloed at one specific area, you can take into account that you have a private equity firm. Some people have big egos. Actually, this organization is being driven by a big thinker, woo-woo CEO, and therefore you're taking him into account. You're taking in all of the information that you're hearing on the back end. You get to pattern recognize, create trends, create systems and a strategy that AI isn't privy to. AI does not have eyes and ears everywhere in your organization, but you do. And therefore, AI cannot replace your role when it comes to the nuanced reliance on you to have this information that will drive your career, but also drive your decision making. So your ability to look across, okay, what were our investment rounds? How recent were they? What are the big personalities in the organization? How do the other teams work together? Are there silos? Are there unsiloing that needs to happen? And therefore you bring your business acumen, your business strategy acumen, and also your consultative mindset back to the plate. Because if you watch my 30, 60, 90-day video here on YouTube, I speak about the importance of having a consultative mindset, and that is the piece that AI cannot replace. And therefore, this enables you to keep having your six-figure, if not multi-six-figure job, because people fundamentally, especially executives, they know this cannot be replaced. This is your unfair advantage, and you need to lean in hard to building up this muscle. Your unfair advantage, your highest value, your leverage is the fact that you have gut instinct, intuition, and the fact that you are a human as a sentient being that can think and feel and see the feelings and the thinking of other people and pass it into information that can be distilled into action that leads to the outcomes of the organization. AI is not smart enough to discern what matters and how people say things in different tonality and who actually calls the shots in the organization, etc., etc. It's very like two-dimensional whilst you have a five-dimensional experience. And I know that this isn't commonly spoken about, but it actually is really fundamental to the way you work. Because at the end of the day, your goal is to move your career forward, to instill and download skills into yourself, invest in yourself, so then you become the best person in your role, in your organization, and therefore you're always in demand in your market. The way that you do that is to lean in hard into your unfair advantages, and this is one of them. How does the use of AI change depending on if you're a PMM under the marketing department or the product department? Now, I asked this to senior PMMs based here in London at my monthly PMM event. Let's see what they have to say. Before we get into the next question, I'm curious to ask you in the audience, who here sits under marketing? Please raise your hand. Okay, all right. And who here, please raise your hand if you sit under product. Okay, and anyone else who sits under a different division? No? Okay, amazing. Okay, majority marketing here. So my question to the panelists are, how is AI changing marketing and product teams and the way that they operate? Over to you, Billy.
I think, and this is something I think I mentioned at the last panel as well, it's helping us figure out the work that we don't like, that we can freely offer up to Gemini or to an AI tool to get it done for us. I think the example that I'll use is collecting all of the market validation work that I've conducted and worked with PMs on. I think one of the steps in the enablement process for us is to create kind of online trainings for our sales team. So we use Sana for that, which itself has some AI functionality that's really, really awesome. But we could do like a dozen hours of like interviews, and we can go and find like really cool like news articles and use Gartner and have all this stuff. And slowly the positioning is kind of forming in my mind, or we're starting to write down a source of truth document, and then we'll get to the place where it's time to start kind of building out this course, and I need to go and find the right quote. And suddenly I'm hit with like possible manual task of who was it that said that one thing that I thought would perfectly encapsulate this training that I could conveniently just like drip into Sana right now, and that would land really, really well with a salesperson. and it could take me 30 minutes to go and trawl through all of that stuff every time I can think of a possible quote or something useful. If I put all of that content into a Google Drive and then sync the Google Drive with Gemini or do a similar thing with Cassidy, there's a lot of similar functionality there, I can then just use the AI as a thought partner and be like, who said this thing, and then kind of generally sum it up, and then give me a timestamp, provide the speaker, what their role was, what the context of the conversation was, and I can either do that really manually and like type all of these things out, or I can kind of have pre-trained the instructions to say, every time that I ask you for a specific quote, always give me the source, always give me the context, always give me those things. And over time, right, that just compounds and saves you so much time, especially if you're churning out lots of sort of short form, like 10-minute enablement bites like I do. So I think the key thing is, I can focus then on having the great conversations with potential customers and then live customers, and then not worry about having to kind of like record everything and go back and manually sift through everything at the end.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one thing that I would add to that is I'm very wary of syncing up my Google Drive with AI right now, because there are some instances where hackers are actually using shared documents that will share with your email in order to access and then get into your AI, which is actually pretty wild. I think ChatGPT did OpenAI did an update that now they've removed that bug. But yeah, such a good point. So good. Kate, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely agree with everything you said. And additionally, I would say AI helps drastically with optimization. What we previously, when I started into marketing 10 years ago, what we did manually, like optimization, trying to change in a million links in Google Ads and in different platforms. Now it all optimized automatically, which is a huge help. And regarding the product marketing specifically, I would say that the research went to the next level, absolutely. Versus like before, I had to just torture all the products, engineers, developers with all the stupid questions. Don't get me wrong, I'm still doing that, but I'm looking much smarter.
Torture.
Yeah,
a little bit of light torture.
but it like in a more smart way, I would say, where I'm coming already more equipped to the conversation. When I just joined my existing company, Percona, I had to create a strategy for a database management tool on Kubernetes. I didn't know much about databases and especially about Kubernetes, and asking the right questions and comparing our features, our product with competitors, asking prompts like how it was done before, and asking, as you said, a proof and specific links to a data in reports, which like really enables your research, gives you like almost a ready to go research where you can just approve or disapprove some specific features with sales engineers, with products, and making sure that you are doing this research not from their perspective. Because if you will ask questions like what it does for customers, what the benefit, what the outcomes, the like most go-to answer would be it optimizes everything. It like make it better the performance or something like that. Versus with your prompts, with your initial research, you can stand on your sales footprint, making sure you're researching this from the sales perspective and how it actually will benefit the end user and will help to generate the revenue for them, not just for you. I would say that.
Yeah, amazing. Sarah, over to you. How is AI changing marketing and product teams and the way they operate?
I mean, I think it's twofold, right? I think one, which we're all seeing, and I feel it's important to say, is that lots of companies are like thinking, well, who could we fire? And that is, to be very, I just wanted to mention that because I think it's heartbreaking, because I think you really should probably just hire the people who know how to optimize themselves. And AI is a tool for that. But I don't think actually, and that's the great thing, looking at what I just said about ChatGPT 5 before, I don't think it's going to take our jobs. I think it's just going to help us improve and spend our time doing the things we like, which you were saying before. But I think it's important to also realize where you, besides liking what you do, where you can especially as a solo PMM, bring value. So it's one, writing release notes. I wouldn't say like me spending 5 hours every 2 weeks doing that is actually a lot of time. But me rewriting release notes for an hour every 2 weeks actually is perfect time. So I think that's what it will do, and that's what it does for me. It helps me make my week more impactful and more insightful. And truth be told, I often just want a sparring partner. And I think that will really allow. I do think we need to ensure AIs like to please us. So you need to make sure that, you understand that bias there, where it might tell you something that is wrong. Like there are, not in our field, but in the solicitor fields, there are solicitors that have quoted cases that were not true because the AI wrote a case, a judgment that actually wasn't real, because they really wanted to help the solicitor using it. So I think it is important to use it, but, use your brain also at the same time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Otherwise, you literally have a yes man in the form of AI, which actually doesn't help you. But I like your point, all of your points around the effectiveness and the impact that you can make from product marketing, but also using AI as a layer on top of our knowledge as PMMs. Because in this room today, we have CMOs, we have VPs, we have directors, as well as PMMs and juniors who are trying to break in or just starting their career, right? So it's important for us to lean into not just the sheer amount of work that we can do through the use of AI or all of the different tools, but again, it's like the effectiveness of how we can increase output in the most qualitative and quantitative way possible, but it has to be really useful stuff. It has to be actually stuff that moves the needle. So yeah, amazing points. Here's how AI can fundamentally be a huge benefit to your career. Firstly, when you learn what works and then you scale it out organization-wide. If you're saving resources or costs for the organization, if you build out AI workflows but you don't do it in silo, you invite other stakeholders, so you make it a collaborative project. If you become the person who's seen as the innovator of AI and the innovation person within the organization, that makes you hugely valuable. If you train others on what you're learning, for example, at a lunch and learn, you're sharing across different teams, you're showing how this will make their life easier and more valuable for the work that they're currently doing. You create the rooms for discussion around AI and how it can be utilized. But also you do it in a way that's collaborative. And why I'm pushing on this point is you don't want other team members to feel like you're replacing their jobs. That's the worst thing you can do for your career. Even though you're acting on behalf of the organization and you're saying things that need to be said, if you do it in a way that rubs up the other people in departments, for example, in sales or CS or product or marketing, and they're like, wow, this PMM is implementing AI, but it literally now has replaced the entire content team, they are going to freaking hate you. And at the end of the day, as a product marketing manager, your job, your goal, and how you make sure that your projects land is by getting the buy-in of your other team members. And they will not be bought into you or your initiatives if they feel like you are remotely replacing their jobs. So at the end of the day, whilst you're thinking about your stability, your career, your progress in your career, other people that you work with are too. And therefore, it's important that they don't feel like you're trying to replace them. And if you outsource the manual, time-intensive tasks that literally aren't adding a ton of value or they aren't moving the needle, you'll also be seen as super beneficial. So then it frees up your time for more strategic work, which you might enjoy more of anyway. Now let's move on to scalability. So let's talk about scalability from a speed standpoint and a quality standpoint. If you can speed up what people are typically asking from you consistently, you actually make your life easier and people love you on the back of it. Now, if you pair this up with quality, so for example, the product sense, the ability to discern what is really good, like I mentioned prior, this will really help. So it no longer becomes a quantity game and therefore you're putting out an output of that's crap, but actually it's things that you're like, wow, I would love to have my name on this because this is quality information or quality outcomes. And I'm going to show you a clip here from PMM Kate, who spoke about this exact topic when I asked her at my event. Hey, over to you. You told me that you and your team now run 3 times more campaigns using AI, where you test faster, drop what doesn't work, and focus on what does. What tools do you use, and how do you measure the effectiveness of the campaigns and not just the speed of execution?
Right. Sounds like a magic, right? 3 times
It
more
really
campaign,
does, yeah.
and we know what to do. So spoiler, we don't know what to do in advance, but AI helps a lot with that. And it starts with ideation stage and what actually to drop on the market. So considering I am within the tech field and running a few products, and each product has 50 plus features, and how it used to be, the product team and engineers are usually those that would say, okay, we're now working on this feature, that would be next one to drop. And the problem on this like ideation and market estimation stage, I would say, would be the fundamental. So what I'm doing, in all companies I'm forcing product team and engineers and developers and team leads, like the tech staff, to work in a tool called productboard.com. I don't know if you heard of it. That's basically the product features ideation management tool. And recently with AI era, it's been enabled with intelligence, which allows us to understand in advance which feature will resonate with end user and which is not. So it analyzes not just visits, but it understands who've been there, the decision maker or user, and what competitors' tool they're using, and like what was their reading time and interest, and did it share with anyone this feature. So basically any idea goes straight online where it's already available in Google, and everyone who is Googling the product solution, the problem solution, will find it, and it helps a lot. It allows to prioritize which feature we will launch, and if actually messaging that describes the feature, the functionality resonates with the end user, meaning that all the ideation process that we're doing, like before we've done it internally, it's right now exposed to the end user as early as possible, which helps a lot. And the second, actually, execution stage, I would say that combination of 2 tools, Adobe Target and Amplitude, is a game changer for us because it automatically identifies the segment of your users and buyers, the visitors of your website, and shows them the right messaging at this moment on a page. So for one product, I have different users and decision makers and influencers, and messaging would be different because everyone has different problems, and the buying process is quite complicated. It's not just one person who is making the decision. And instead of including absolutely everything we have and make the landing page overcomplicated and heavy, we would adjust it with AI to the right person in the right moment and show them straight away what they're looking for. So that was a great help. And the third thing that I would mention is competitive intel. Is something that also helps us prioritize the launches and the messaging as well. If before we had to manually work on like up to 40 competitors, constantly identifying what they've been dropping, what they're talking about, this new technology and that. Right now, I'll show you, tell you later how we're exactly doing this. We're doing this with like all the competitive intel automatically with AI and sharing it across the company with sales and customer success team. So the whole like company enabled with the latest market news, which is quite handy.
Very cool. And by the way, for anyone who's trying to keep up on the tools that are being mentioned, I am going to email you all of the tools mentioned on the panel today. And for those of you at home, you'll get a download link in description. Oh my God, who am I? Okay. We've come a long way. If you were here from the start of like all of these events, yay, productmarketers.com, it was not like this, I'll tell you. But amazing. Thank you so much, Kate. That was awesome. You can also scale out your communication through the use of AI. There's a tool that I absolutely love to use called Whisper that enables me to dictate through my voice and get all of the information out of it as quickly as possible. And that is your leverage. Again, it's the highest leverage way that you can communicate across the board to create more hours out of your 1 hour. So I'm going to have all of the tools linked in my workbook. The link is down in the description, so you have access to it there. But on the topic of communication, you can use a tool like Whisper or using your voice to then speak into ChatGPT, into Claude, in any generative AI tools that you want to use. Therefore, you're not only speeding up the outcome that comes out of an AI prompt or an AI tool, but you're also speeding up the input, which is your communication into it, and adding in all of the nuance and all of the information that is required in order to get a really high quality output. So therefore, what you're doing is you're training yourself to work at the speed of which you think and not the speed of which you type. Very different things. If you're able to work at the speed of which you think and you speak, and especially if you're like me, I can yap for ages. If you're a good yapper, then it actually speeds up not only the quality of the delivery, but also the speed of which you can communicate your inputs. So then you start to work to your speed of thinking and speaking as opposed to your speed of typing. Then the question becomes, if you're working to the speed of your thinking, when do you peak in your thinking capabilities? Is it in the morning? Is it in the evening? Is it right before lunch? Is it after the 3 p.m. dip? Or maybe there isn't a dip. Maybe it's a spike for the caffeine if you kick that in. Like, you have to know when you work the best throughout the day, so then you can optimize your deep work for that time, and then you work to the speed of your functionality of thinking and speaking when it suits you and when it maximizes your capability. Therefore, you're now optimizing not only the day around how well and how best you work, but also utilizing AI tools to now work with you in cahoots. So you're leveraging the fact that you know that you work at your peak at a specific time or a specific duration, and you're now utilizing AI on top of it to scale it out. So a tip that I recommend is, for example, if you do your best thinking early in the morning when you're walking your dog, or maybe you're cooking late at night, or whatever the case may be, voice dictate into an app. So then you capture all of the juice. You capture all of the value, the diamonds that come out of your thinking. You capture it. So then you capture it at a time that's separate to you actioning it. You don't have to capture an action at the exact same time. It's kind of like saying to an author, here's a blank piece of page, fill it out, start writing this book. And it's like, well, I capture my ideas at a specific time away from when I actually action it. And therefore, it can be the same for you. Maybe you wake up straight in the morning, 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., you walk your dog, you voice dictate into an app, and then you action it later once you're at your desk. Therefore, you are optimizing your workday to get out the outcomes that matter to the organization, but you're working to the way that you work, and you're not trying to put a random jigsaw puzzle into a jigsaw that just doesn't fit. So you're now working to the best of your capabilities, and you're fundamentally working in your best way to get out the best outcomes that lead to the best career for you. And bear in mind, if you use voice dictation and you are saying something snarky or sarcastic, AI cannot pick up on it. It cannot tell if you say, wow, that's fantastic, versus, wow, that's fantastic. It cannot tell the difference between the two, and therefore you have to watch your words really carefully. But not only does this impact you and the words that you say, but for example, if you take a transcript from a customer or a colleague or an executive or whatever it may be, and then you put it into AI to discern some sort of outcome out of it, then AI cannot tell whether someone's being sarcastic or literal or whatever. So if you're like, wow, that was great, and then it's like, thanks so much, I'm so glad it was helpful, and you're like, what the heck? So just something to bear in mind. Voice dictation does not enable AI to understand the nuance of how you're saying it and your tonality, especially when it comes to customers as well. Now let's move on to tactics. So the goal is to future-proof you and your career through the use of AI tactics. The moat that you can create is around you, your thinking, and your strategy. So the more you're able to build up your strategic visibility, your cross collaboration with people, and basically make sure that your value is super clear, abundantly, 100% clear in the organization that you work at, the stronger it is that you will position yourself within the organization. So then tactics can lie on top of it. This is basically what I teach in the Profitable PMM Challenge. So if you're interested, the link is down below. Otherwise, let's get into it. The goal isn't to overwhelm yourself with a ton of tools or things to do in your job. The goal is to empower yourself and to scale out what you're currently doing and how good it is you are. So therefore, if you feel like you're using AI and it's making you feel less than, or making you feel dumber, or making you feel really bad, that is not true. And if anyone makes you feel like you're not doing a good job or you're not good at what it is you do, it is probably not true. Like, it's just a perception issue, or it's just you and your confidence is basically shot right now. So the goal of this section, in the tactics section, is not to overwhelm you or to place pressure on you. As I mentioned before, it's all around the mindset of tinkering around, having fun with it, trying things out. So I'm going to show you, before we get into it, I'm going to show you a clip that will help you do exactly this.
Can you walk us through a specific project, or maybe one of you can answer this. Can you walk us through a specific project or workflow where AI changed how you approached it from start to finish? Who wants to take this question?
I can take one.
Yeah, go for it, Kate.
Yeah, I was promising to tell about the competitive intel and AI integration, how it works and how I were able to automate this. So before, as I mentioned, we have a few products, a lot of competitors, different features, and plus the market news, like new technologies coming in. And the problem was when we just prepared the new data sheet, the new position in messaging, research, it's not valid in 1 month, honestly. It's always have to be updated, and we're doing this, obviously. But the thing is that how to enable with something live and right away when the salesperson, when the customer success manager right now on the call in 5 minutes, and somebody asks him about recent, like yesterday's news. And what we come up with, there is a tool called Manus, which is basically the better version of ChatGPT and more expensive, which conducts quite extensive researches. And what we did with HTML code, we just integrated in our Notion. Versus if you don't, guys, use Notion, it could be any web page that supports the coding, the simple SQL coding. And with the specific prompts, it updates every 3 days related news to every technology and to every competitor's websites and blog related to a specific field. So
that's so good.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So it updates, it doesn't save the history, which is like kind of cool because we have all of that in messaging and positioning and news. And if it's something important, we will like drop it in Slack. But now sales team and the whole company can quickly go into like the separate page to a specific topic and know what happened to the last 3 days, quite significant, and use it right now on their call. And that was that was significant. They love it, they still use it. And this is basically automated competitive intel and market data that goes live stream in your organization, tailored to your needs and your prompts.
Goodness, that is game changing. That is amazing. And it just automatically updates itself.
Yes. So it's
so
it's set it up like 3 latest news for 3 days for a specific prompt, and it will erase and replace the news once the new comes out.
That is so good. Billy and Sarah are like, oh, I'm going to implement this.
When I created this example, it landed so freaking hard on my clients that I was like, whoa, I had no idea that this had such cut through. So here's the example for you as well. Listen up, This is gold. Look at my screen. Imagine every time that you sit at this piano, it is out of tune. So then you sit there, you want to play, but then you have to open the hood and then you have to tune the piano, close the hood, then you start playing. Now, the moment that you're like, I need a glass of water, you stand up, you leave the piano, and then you come back to the piano. It is out of tune again. So this piano literally is out of tune every single time you leave and then come back and want to do something new. Every time you want to do something new, it is out of tune. This is the same as every time that you open up a generative AI, whether it be ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, whatever. Every time you open up a new chat, you have to tune it before you use it. You have to tune it. Otherwise, it will give you whack results. And if you don't prompt properly, it's basically like playing an out of tune piano that you're just trying to get the gist of it. Now, let's go back. You're sat at the piano, but every time you're like, I would rather just have a piano that's in tune every time I come to this, and every time I want to start a new piece of music, every time I want to play, I don't want to have to tune this over and over and over again. The solution to that is to create a custom GPT. A custom GPT is basically you've tuned it up with everything that you require. So for example, you've tuned up the C key and then the A key and then the D key and then the D flat or the B flat. You've tuned up all of the different keys in the piano and then you've saved it. It's like if the piano had a save button that you can press save after you've tuned up every single key. And then all of a sudden you start playing the piece, right? You're like, wow, I'm in flow, I'm getting something out of it. And then you hit one key, it's like ding, 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 ding. And you're like, that sounds a bit flat. Sounds a bit flat. That sounds off. Let me go back and tune it. So then you go back into the custom GPT and you edit it. And then you refine it. So basically what you're doing is instead of doing I'm just going to stand up, I'm going to come back, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to come back, I'm going to tune it as I go, blah, 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 which is like the original. When you start a new chat, you leave the chat. And then you start a new chat with ChatGPT and then you leave. And then you're like, I'm getting inconsistent results here. If you do the upfront work of literally spending an hour or 2 hours creating a custom GPT that works for you, then you can refine it with time. And the same with a piano. If you sat at this piano and you're like, I'm going to use this piano for years, if I just spend 2 hours or 3 hours tuning up this piano to the best of my ability, pressing save, and then with time, I naturally know I'm going to have to make adjustments. But if I do the front load of work first, then every time you come back to it, you get consistent or consistent-ish results. This is the example that I shared with my clients that just absolutely frigging landed. So for example, when I used the example earlier around using communication to speed up your scalability within the AI, for example, you can use the voice transcription here to speak to your AI to get all of the context out via spoken word and treat it like you're speaking to a new colleague and you're ramping them up. The way to tune up the piano is basically, in this case, it's like treating the piano as if it was absolutely brand new, which it is. And it's the same with a new chat. So when you enter a new chat, treat this like this is a brand new employee to your organization. It has no context of anything. It's brand new. You're resetting it. You're creating the foundation. So then you can use the dictate button or whisper, which I absolutely love. It's going to be in the workbook. And therefore, you can really hone it and make sure that you basically ramp up a new colleague the way that you would ramp up your generative AI tool, whatever the tool may be. So then creating a custom GPT, and I'm going to create a custom GPT in a second so you can watch this being done. But creating a custom GPT basically saves your ramp up. It saves how you would speak to a new colleague and all of the information you would give to a new colleague. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. When you want to create a custom GPT, you have to head to your GPTs. And then here is where, the same as like tuning a piano, there's two routes you can go. But let me start with you creating your own. So let's do create, you name it. Let's do it a battle card creator. Now here on the right is what you'll see as the end result. This is what you're going to see on the front end, and this is the back end. So you can add in all of the instructions of what it should do, how it should behave. What's fascinating is you can actually use ChatGPT to create a prompt. So create an in-depth prompt for me to use for a custom GPT. My microphone is in the way for the battle cards, for product marketing and sales enablement. I want no hallucinations, etc., etc. I want it to be in depth, related to our company and our competitors, but for our company, and then you can enter into the name if you want. So Apple, to always win and be the better option. Let's just see what happens. Again, this is literally just tinkering. This is messing around. This is trying it out. This is just seeing. And you can also, I have it on auto right now, but you could put it on thinking, which takes a lot longer. I just put it on auto because I want to, speed this up and just give you some ideas as to what to do, right? So then you can use this as like a format. Or maybe even after this, my follow-up can be, what are some additional areas I should provide to this with context-wise or details-wise to make the custom GPT as effective as possible. And by the way, Claude can do this too. You can do this in Claude, Perplexity. Like, they all have their own custom GPT or custom area within their tool. So this is not unique or siloed to just ChatGPT. You can create your own one. But let's just say use this, right? Let's just say we use this, although I feel like this can be a ton better, because what you want, and this is just an example, by the way, what you basically want is you want your custom GPT, like tuning a piano, you want it to be super customized to what it is your tool does and the knowledge it has. So here is where you can provide uploaded files. So you can tag example battle cards. You can include here, you can include your branding colors. You can include, do not mention anything that isn't accurate to what you find on the internet for competitors, etc., etc. And you can even fine tune this like a piano. With time, you can put in this as the initial one, but with time, if you're like, errors are still showing up, you can come back into here and then edit this further. And by the way, this is just rogue right now. So you can pick whatever it is and just go into more depth. Here you can upload files. Make sure it's obviously not sensitive, no customer data. Make sure that it's compliant with your organization, but you can share information that you feel like This will help make this battle card creator better. You can share what a good battle card looks like, what a bad one looks like. You can share what your competitors are doing, who your competitors are. You can share whatever you want. You can upload it into here. You can even upload a format of how you want it to look, etc. So then we have recommended model, totally up to you. So under capabilities, basically web search means that this custom GPT will search the web to find information to help this. Canvas is basically this. It's the generator here, so you're able to see it. So then Canvas is basically, if you want to turn this into, actually, let me show you in a second. It will be a little surprise. Image generation. Let's see, create new action, and you can create additional actions there. Cool. Let's press create only me for now. And then once you want to share it with your team or your wider organization, you can do anyone with a link or even put it into the GPT store, depending on if you want it public or private. Then let's press view GPT. And here we are. Now imagine if I had spent an hour or two honing the backend. You literally just saw me create it in a couple minutes. Imagine if you spent 1 hour to really hone that thing. Really hone it, make it so applicable to your organization, make it so honed in everything that's required. And then you just kept going through this and this and this and this to try and make it like so bulletproof as possible. Imagine the output that would come out of it. Let's create a Apple versus Microsoft battle card. Let's just see what happens. And sure, I should have put an Apple, but it's fine. I'm doing this for you. Okay. So and here's the thing, this now requires some of your judgment to check if it's correct. And because we had web search on, it will actually search the web and source it here. Now, what's beautiful is because we had Canvas created, I want to say create an actual battle card in Apple branding and show me what it looks like visually. Now, Canvas should automatically happen off the back of this prompt. Shoot, okay, it's creating an image. Let me try another prompt afterwards and let's see what happens. Create a website landing page battle card page. Let's just see. So it's starting to build out the actual canvas, so then we can start to see a preview. Now this is going, like I showed you, the custom GPT route. This is where you hone it to match your business, to match your organization with the information that you provide it, to make it as actionable and as useful as possible. So then if you frame a custom GPT with the right information and you tune it and you include the appropriate docs, the information, the details, examples of content you like or examples of competitors, you basically can feed your custom GPT what you like, what you don't, to tune it further. You can attach branding guidelines, product and positioning information, message house, your competitive battle cards, any strategy frameworks you work to, and even client testimonials, so long as you remove anything that's proprietary or anything that's like just too much data that it would get you into trouble. So then once it's done, you can apply your product sense, your taste, your judgment to it, and then edit off the back of it. And then this is what I was mentioning around a canvas. I don't know if it will actually load right now because my internet's being a bit dodgy. Oh, here we go. So this is what it would look like when you turn on the canvas feature. So then you can start to actually build out, and bear in mind, this is orange because I put in that random hex code for a random color. And I was like, I don't know. I was just putting it into the branding in the back of the custom GPT. So you can put in your actual branding, your colors, your fonts, your tone of voice, all of the information that you want. And then you can start to build out at least what can be a V1 to a battle card. And maybe you can even update this according to the information that either ChatGPT finds or you find, etc. So this is just one example. And bear in mind, I created this in 2 seconds. Duplicate, you can download it. But imagine if you spend 1 hour tuning this up, making the custom GPT be so in line with your organization. Therefore, it feels like it is ready to make. And every time you sit down to your battle card creator or whatever GPTs you have, then it's always ready to use, like the tuned up piano. And bear in mind, you can have literal hundreds, if you want, of GPTs. If you want to be that excessive, right? You can have one for every element of your job. You can have it for every element of your tactics. You can have it for every element that moves the needle. Again, it has to be useful. If it's not useful, then it's just going to be a waste of your time. Again, we are scaling out your mastery. And by the way, that was if you create your own custom GPT through the create, right? There are going to be other people who've potentially already made a GPT that you want to use. Now, if you're using information that's publicly available, then feel free, right? Like there's nothing wrong with using publicly available information. For example, a battle card, everything for you versus a competitor. Let's do get started and see what prompts come up. So this way you're actually saving yourself a lot of time. However, this can be an inspiration for how you then create your own battle card generator in the back of custom GPT or whatever it may be, right? It could be for messaging, it could be for slide decks, it can be for whatever. I'm ignoring their questions, but imagine if you did provide the questions, you provided details, etc. Let's see what comes up here. And once again, you can use your judgment in order to see if this was actually true or not. And then you can literally just keep going through the custom GPTs already made and see what happens. For example, there's Canva where you can start to build things out. Maybe you can even build out a slide deck. Let's see. Build a slide deck to sell. Let's just test this out. Okay, it's asking me for more questions, but again, you're starting to hopefully getting the point, which is once you sit at an open new chat and there is no custom GPT behind it, you have to tune it up every single time. The quality of the output that comes with a new conversation with a generative AI tool is based on the inputs of which you will include to help it create a really good outcome for you. Now, if you create a custom GPT, it's a lot more work and preparation and hours on the front end. However, you have it as the backbone, the system behind how you then go back into it. So then you can always go back into your own custom GPTs and use it over and over and over again, which is amazing. And then you go into my GPTs here, and then you can see a list of them. You can edit them, iterate them, etc., etc. So the tools that I absolutely love that I've mentioned so far is Whisper. This will be in your workbook. Then there's Completely. That is a competitive intelligence tool that I highly recommend as well. So what's been interesting is the best AI tools that are predominantly made for its own functionality. They're typically listed on Product Hunt. So if you're ever looking for tools that are interesting, that will hopefully solve your pain points and help towards your career, then Product Hunt is usually the best place to find out really cool tools in the AI space. And then what's beautiful is you can integrate tools together. So for example, you can potentially integrate your AI tools with one another, and then you can integrate them with your Google Docs. But again, you have to make sure that your organization approves of it. You need to make sure that legal has given you permission to share and to integrate specific areas of your company. For example, if it's Drive, if it's email, if it's competitive intelligence, etc., you can integrate them together. But that's like level 401 of working, is when you either use Zapier to connect the different tools together, or you connect the different tools together through their own APIs or integration. And also what you provide your AI, your custom GPT, or whatever tool you're going to be using, the inputs really matter. So make sure that it's not confidential information or customer info, or if it is customer info, that it's something that you're okay sharing or the organization is okay sharing. It's your brand, your product, your features, how you win, how you lose. But also you can use the instructions to share frameworks, to share inputs that are like frameworks that you've learned that either work in your organization, so internal use frameworks, or it could be from books, it can be from other thought leaders, it can be from people. But I highly recommend checking with legal and your managers on AI and customer data, especially if you're in fintech or a regulated industry. You don't want to lose trust or have a bad reputation with your customers. Make sure that your back is covered, but absolutely no pressure. But I want you to ensure that your back is covered with how you're utilizing AI as part of your role. Because sales team, they typically go rogue. And if you see them going rogue with the use of AI, or they're sharing confidential information, then flag it to your manager. You are not responsible for others. You are responsible for yourself and what you create for others to use. So if they input sensitive information into public AI software, competitors can now find it. And that's really, really bad. It's really it's just not useful to you because it's now in public domain. So it should honestly be a top-down decision. But if it's not, you should try and enforce it. Use AI in the best interest for your organization, but make sure that it doesn't hurt you down the line. So how do you know what to build a custom GPT for? So let's go back to what I'd mentioned at the start of this course, which is the business goals. So it's all around unpacking the biggest constraint right now. And maybe it's right now you have low win rates, or maybe it's you're losing deals, or you have confusion in the marketplace. Confusion, which is they are confused. Or maybe there's low sentiment in the market, or maybe it's lower brand mention on socials, so no one's speaking about you on socials. That was meant to be a thought bubble anyway, thought bubble-ish. Or maybe your reviews are worse, or there's lower web traffic, right? Then the goal is, how do you solve this effectively? Either with using AI or without using AI, and to what degree. It's not all or nothing, it's to what degree that you use AI. For example, is it solely solved by the use of AI? Is the business outcome, is the business goal, is the issue at hand, is it solely solved with the use of AI? For example, it could be a transcription of a customer testimonial. So that's solely solved with AI by getting a transcription of that customer conversation. Is it human improved? So you have improved something off the back of using it with AI. So for example, it could be the battlecard example. Or is it fully human driven? So is it you setting strategy across your organization, across your department, across your project? Maybe that is fully human driven. And the goal is to recognize which one is which, and then make sure if it's what kind of split and how it's involved. So that's how you start to discern what is a priority, what needs to be done, what is the biggest constraint right now, and what's the business goal that you're working towards. So the goal is not for you to watch this and then go back to work and you're like, I'm going to create 100 GPTs. And it's like, for what? Like, what's the reason? Why should this be top of priority right now? Like, maybe this is not top of priority. Maybe this is a waste of frigging time. When actually, maybe your executives are asking about win rates. We need to focus on here. And therefore, everything that you do towards this is what matters right now. And then once that is accomplished, then you can move on to, okay, we have low deals, or our pipeline is drying up. How do we improve pipeline for the next quarter or 2 quarters? Then you can start to think, okay, is it human improved? Am I involved? Is it fully human orientated? Or does AI have a role in this? And then you just keep going until you start ticking things off and they are like, wow, this is working, this is improving things. Okay, what is the next big constraint? Or maybe there's a big constraint within this itself. Maybe you then say, oh shoot, I recognize that we are losing deals because actually our pipeline is great, but the sales team, they aren't converting. Therefore, the biggest constraint becomes, how do we improve how the sales team are relaying information? And therefore, it's like, can AI help with this? Or should it be me? Is there human training, or is it AI training? Is it role playing, etc., etc.? Is it talk tracks that needs improving? And therefore, AI is part of that. Do you see what I'm saying? Therefore, you're utilizing a system to start to help you get to the goal, which fundamentally matters in the organization. That's the fundamental of it. It's making sure that everything that you do in your job is to work on the highest leverage activity, work with high leverage tools and systems in place to then allow you to not only be valued in this organization, but also provide your best work. And therefore, when it comes down to the time where you're like, I want a promotion, or I want a salary increase, or I want higher than average bonuses, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. Like, you're not begging, because they're like, this person is not working on random tasks for the sake of it. They're working on what frigging matters, which is ultimately whatever rolls up to the business goals. What are the words that are being mentioned from the executives? And if you want to go deep into this specifically around goals, leverage, creating value, getting paid, being valued, and learning what the 5 biggest career mistakes for PMMs are, then join down below via the link for the Profitable PMM Challenge, because you will get a courtesy invite to my next live masterclass. And on my live masterclass, I go into this in depth, like fully in depth. So come along. I would love to see you on the masterclass. Then the question becomes, how do you prompt your generative AI tool effectively to get the most out of it? I've created a framework to do this. So this is the art of prompt design, and I created my brief framework to help you do this, and this will be part of the workbook, so the link is down below. But you don't need a prompt library. If anything, this will help you create a prompt library for not only yourself, but for your wider team, maybe even your organization, because you can have an LLM create a prompt for you. So for example, how I used ChatGPT to create a prompt for me, I said, hey, like, help me create a custom GPT prompt, etc. You can actually use AI in order to help you create a prompt. And by the way, within your settings, you can set up memory. So you can actually save memory within your tool, within whatever tool you're using. So then it will always be able to recognize it and refer back to it. So then even though you use a brief, like the brief framework on a different prompt, maybe then it will start to learn about you and remember what it is you do, how it is you help, what it is your organization does, etc., etc. So again, this is fine-tuning your generative AI to work for you, so then you're not wasting time. Now, back to the brief framework. So this is where in a prompt, ideally, you have all 5 of these, which is starting with the business outcome. What is it? Again, what is the business outcome? What is it that you're actually trying to achieve? The second is role and reader. who is the AI talking to and who is it that you are trying to help. So therefore you cover the audience and the persona and who you're actually helping. Next is the inputs. This is all around the documents that you attach, the information, the context, the constraints, the examples. You're showing what good and bad looks like, etc. Then E is the expression. What is the brand tone of voice? What is the format? What are the colors? Like, how is it that your organization shows up in the world? And therefore, how is it that you want the output to show up in regards to the expression? Then the F is feedback. This bakes in a iteration loop, because here's the thing. These tools are biased. They're going to agree with you. They're going to make you feel good, when actually what you want is a debate. You want feedback. You want like pushback on this, or give me iterations, or like debate with me. And you want that as part of it. So I'm going to share this in the workbook. This is a great just way to start to get your brain muscle like geared up to how to prompt. So then what you can do is use this as a framework, as a format for you to share the right information into a prompt that actually delivers. And then off the back of this, you can create your own prompt library. So the better the prompt, the better the output. And V1 is central to everything that you create. Just see it as version 1 with room for iteration, with room for improvement. And therefore, for example, if you're going to do a messaging test, it's V1 and you're going to A/B test it versus what's currently being used, and then see if you can improve the conversion rate over time. That way you're working with other team members, but also you're geared around the business outcomes and how to improve what it is you're doing in your job through the use of AI to not only speed it up, but create quality outputs for you as well. So I highly recommend, do not do this in isolation. Everything that I showed was siloed right now, but I want you to include other stakeholders, make it collaborative, make it a joint project. That way you're again showing that you're one of the team. You are not there to like replace their job, because again, they care about their stability as well as you do. And you're there to add value to not only their life to make it easier, but also they need to know that they are adding value to you. So when the time comes that you are asking sales, hey, I want to be brought on into more customer calls, or I would love it if you recommend that I get a customer testimonial from this person, can you introduce me, etc., then they have a harder time saying no, and it's easier to say yes from them. If they can see the thought and the context that goes into what you're doing and you've made it collaborative, then they are on your side. And that at the end of the day is the game. The game is to make sure that everyone is on your side, that you are valued at your organization, and that you are pushing your career in the right direction. So this is how the difference between using AI to basically work against your favor versus using AI to work in your favor. The disparity is clear, and you need to ensure that AI is working in your favor towards your career as opposed to against it. Now, just because you can iterate on something doesn't mean you should. For example, I'm pretty sure that you can do 1,000,000 positioning exercises run through the year. Now, this might not actually help the organization, even though you can do it. Maybe you can do messaging tests, but if you're doing positioning, the art of discernment between what is it that we should be focusing on to unlock the biggest constraint and to get towards the business outcomes that lead to actionalized, realized revenue, versus what is it that would just literally be a waste of time and effort and resources. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And having that art of discernment and figuring out what is it that we should be focusing on can either come from your executives with your manager's approval or your manager's take on it, or hot takes from your team members like your PMs, your salespeople, etc. But I just want to caveat that just because you can doesn't automatically mean that you should. Now, I'm going to recommend a few tools for you to look into, for you to use, and also books to check out. So for example, on the product marketing side, check out Gong, Clue AI. They have their Compete AI as part of it. I mentioned completely. There are the obvious tools like ChatGPT, Claude, etc., that I've already mentioned. But also, I'm going to mention more in the workbook. So, not only from what I've been hearing from the hundreds of PMMs that I've spoken to and my PMM clients that I coach, and also I coach growth marketers, which is kind of wild. Like they've joined. I'm like, yay, we have growth marketers. So, there are a mix of now jobs in productmarketers.com, which is so cool. But also, the books that I would recommend is Ashley Force. She has Human-Centered Marketing, which is an amazing, amazing book. So that's going to be in the workbook as well as a couple others. So check it out, workbook down below. Now, the next section is Q&A. Here's the Q&A from inside the room at my last AI in product marketing event. Any questions from the audience to our panelists? Morgane, I saw you first.
I wanted to ask a question on career development and personal development and how you use AI for that to learn new things or to redo your CV or whatever, generally, both career and personal development.
Okay, how do you use AI for personal or career development? Sarah?
I mean, we've spoken about this privately already.
Tell us, dish the private conversation.
No, we went out for dinner Monday night. But I like using AI to actually write a lot of copy back to recruiters, because often don't want to be rude, but I know I don't want a job. So I'll write a nice message and I'll just get it to write it. So I actually do use it for some of my copywriting. I do rewrite it on the back of that, but I've generally already fed it what I want and what I don't want. The other piece really is sometimes you can pull some of the JDs of LinkedIn and actually ask ChatGPT to find out for you what skills you have and what skills you're missing. And I actually, if there is something that you don't have yet, but you think you could potentially want in 6 months or a year, actually find out what skills you're missing and start working on them.
I love that. So do a skill audit with AI.
I'll give you one of my favorite tips that I found out with the ChatGPT or any other AI agent. So when you're learning something, at least when I'm learning something, like I don't know, introduce me, for example, for the latest trends in like positioning, messaging, or research at some specific field, I will always add the words with the Socratic approach. What does it mean? So AI under the hood will start teaching you and introduce you to this new topic, asking you questions. What you already know, what you don't, will estimate your level of knowledge. And with this way, it will not just drop you the general summary, the general information about this. It will start asking you the question, and it will start build the study process based on your existing knowledge. So yeah, just add the Socratic method of learning, and believe me, it will improve your research and all the study you're doing with AI.
Very cool. I love that tip. All right, next question. Monica, over there.
Thanks, Hattie. I loved the whole panel. I loved you talking about how you use AI in your daily work. But the point you made at the end, Hattie, was like, have any of you been thinking about how your products are getting spat out to other people through AI? So beyond SEO, like how you're optimizing these answer engines to get your product spat out, because that is kind of the reverse thinking. So any tips or insight would be great.
Yeah, any tips from the panel on how you're using AI to spit out your organization as the answer to someone's problem that they're putting into AI?
I have been thinking about it. I can tell you I haven't yet implemented it, but one of the things I started doing a while back is asking ChatGPT who are perceived competitors, for example. How do we position against that according to you? If I would say, if I use this, our general functionality, right? How would you describe our functionality, and are we better or worse than X competitor? etc. And how, if you look at our X web page, which is there, what would you change, or what trick am I missing?
But when it comes to actually getting AI to mention the company that you work for, has anyone worked on this yet? No.
I've thought about it.
Yeah, fair.
I also haven't been working on that, but what I see is that the ChatGPT would use it. It also kind of have its bias, and it will use the most popular answers. And if your organization not in like the first couple pages in SEO rank, it's very unlikely ChatGPT will use it, unless, what I also found, if you're using the same messaging as you're using on your, let's say, website. For example, in one of my recent products, I'm using the first open source database platform management. This kind of a unique message that nobody else uses. And if I will ask him, like, can you give me like the first or the open source, blah, 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 it will give me my page, meaning that trying to address, it's the same Google, what the potential leads gonna Google for, gonna search for. I think that's the key.
Yeah, and a few things that I heard on the podcast was if you have blog posts that use listicles, then apparently whatever you mentioned as part of those listicles, basically it was explaining that AI right now, it really likes order and organization. So for example, if your organization has a specific framework and you make that framework as part of a blog post or on your website, then it will refer to it and then mention your company. But I feel like there is a lot more interesting developments that we can find out on that one. Any other questions? Laura?
I think the use cases you've mentioned in terms of how you're using AI are just phenomenal. Are they for sale? Literally, like, I mean, you were talking about Cassidy, you're talking about competitive intel, and just really curious, do you have maybe some sort of prompt framework or something that you're willing or able to share with those that would want to sort of learn at your feet and these kinds of things?
It's interesting. Think about it. Not from me yet, but I would love to share.
Yeah. Do you have a prompt framework, Billy?
For Cassidy in particular, the biggest source of enablement for me was they have like a really, really comprehensive help center. And so like, I guess their two biggest products are assistants, which if you're using Gemini, very similar to a gem or something like that, right? Like a preset series of instructions, a knowledge base that you can train it on, and that way when you send prompts through, it's already able to execute stuff quite quickly. And then workflows, that's kind of what the PG Copilot project that I mentioned, where it's kind of triggering multi-step things. So it's not just like a sort of the chatbot functionality, but it's actually kind of like orchestrating a whole thing. Cassidy has its own kind of help center that kind of has all those things. I guess the other part of how I managed to kind of use those tools were the very, very AI-enabled colleagues that I have at a Multiverse. People that sit in product team, people that sit in like the IT team, and who I've been able to have these conversations with to help me kind of like unlock the extra kind of 5% along the way. I can't monetize them, unfortunately, either. But I think a great place to start with a lot of these tools as well is kind of those help centers, and I definitely got myself like 80% of the way they're using that.
And don't hesitate to ask him to generate the prompt for you. For example, if you know your goal, like for example, increase sale, and you for that need to position some product or identify the pain points or something, just important thing to include the final goal, not just identify someone pain points, but in order to generate money in the end, and ask him to generate the prompt for you. It also will work.
I was just going to ask you a question, really. I think you might not know how well you know your product. So you're saying, use the user guides, but the truth is, what she's actually really asking, you've done the work already. Can you share your biggest, like maybe even use those user guides? Those are the ones that really going to get you there, especially if you're talking to solo PMMs or people who are super busy. I can tell you for myself, unfortunately, unless I'm going to do it in my private time, I don't have 5 hours to go through user guides. I'd love to, and that might be also some of the previous question, why are people so hesitant to start using AI, is because they just don't know where to start.
what I'm hearing is I should start selling my services on LinkedIn,
Essentially.
right?
Well, that was the question, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm very, very happy to have a conversation about that for sure. And like, let's definitely connect. I just haven't done it before. In terms of the tech stack that we have, Multiverse, I think I've mentioned Cassidy, I've mentioned Guru and Sano and Gemini. I think I probably get most of my work done with those tools. I haven't got them all necessarily singing together yet in like one big glorious orchestration, but I think for me it's kind of the small wins, right? And so especially if you're working at an organization where there's still a lot of room for growth with AI, right? There might be kind of like still kind of early days or just kind of getting kind of its act together. I still feel like there's so much low-hanging fruit, even in an organization where I feel like Multiverse is pretty far along already on its AI journey, like at least with the amount of kind of access and use cases amongst like everybody in the company that's able to use AI. There's still a lot of low-hanging fruit out there. Like just when you kind of look at all of the manual process that you have to sift through in your job and you really unpack it, there's so much to be done. So yeah, I'm very happy to connect with you afterwards as well.
I'll market you. I'm very happy to market you if you want.
Yeah, the frameworks will be sent through productmarketers.com. You'll find it on the website in like 2 weeks' time for like $49. It'll be fine. I'm joking. I know my answer isn't to you, Laura, specifically, because you have a growth mindset. But for the other people who maybe even online, I find when people over-rely on frameworks or pre-written prompts, it doesn't get you to actually get to the crux of the matter, which is to get you thinking about how to communicate to AI. It's about building the muscle of how do you generate prompts, or how do you use AI, or how do you think outside of the box creatively to use these different tools to get you and your organization to the end result. So it's not specific to you, but it's like an over-reliance on some grifter in America, no offense, Americans, and Monica, you know, the over-reliance on like pre-written, you know, garbage or PDFs and stuff, they might not actually help in the long run of getting us to think. I'm always, because obviously I'm a coach, I'm always thinking, how can I enable my clients to learn how to fish as opposed to me giving them the fish? That's why I'm really against even templates, because I'm like, that literally remove the thinking factor from you, and I've literally robbed you for $49. Like, how does that make sense? So learn the skill fast of like, how do I communicate with this? How can I actually improve on it? And then over time, you will see this compounding effect of how you use tools in general. But that was one thing that I would add. Let's open up to a final question before I let you all go. Oh, okay. I see two. Let's get to both. All right, Elliot.
All right, I'll try and make it quick. Paint a scenario, non-specific. Imagine you're a solo PMM with zero budget. What AI do you pick, and how do you move the needle, or like what metric would you pick to move with zero budget?
I mean, how you move the needle, meaning how do you get budget? Or like...
As in, what needle would you tackle, what metric would you tackle, and how?
I mean, I think answering what Hattie was just saying really is, in essence, think about the stuff that is super manual, that you redo again and again and again, is not super innovative, and just costs you a lot of time. Those are the things that I've picked up the first, that I'm using. I keep mentioning my release notes because they're bloody annoying, but they're super important, as well as one of the other things, like ensuring that my bias doesn't go with the transcripts of my interviews, or I use it actually every meeting that I have internally, I record nowadays, and I actually feed it into ChatGPT and ask it to get the takeaways out so that I don't really forget anything that I should have remembered. That just helps me in the day-to-day. So that, I guess. But it really also, and that's the other thing I'm going to say, depends on what you need it for. So I would just take a look at your week. Take a look at the stuff you enjoy least and the stuff that costs you most time, and hopefully they are the same. And those are the things that I would see what AI works for that. So for me, ChatGPT does the trick. But if it's a lot of writing, there are AIs that write much better than ChatGPT. So it really depends what you need it for.
Yeah, and the thing that I would add is if there isn't budget right now, sometimes it really is a case of building the business use case for your organization. Maybe the budget isn't there because either someone in the executive level just doesn't understand what the actual output can come out of it. And even if you speak hypothetically and you say, hey, I showed up to this productmarketers.com event, I learned from 3 other PMMs who are using these tools, and I think there is a business case here. Can we use these specific tools for 3 months and just see, can we back it with budget? And then I will be able to give you the results as a part of that. And sometimes the C-suite is actually very likely to allow you that to happen, especially if you can back it up with either, oh, I see the competitor doing this, or I see that if we use XYZ specific tool to get us to the outcome. What I've learned also is if you link the outcome of the executive or the people who matter up, above us, to then link that to the outcome that a tool can then generate for you, right? So it's like working backwards from, well, what does that executive actually want? And therefore, what can I actually implement that will get us there, either on the time thing, on the speed factor, but as Billy said, as Kate said, as Sarah said, on the effectiveness factor, right? On the outputs factor.
Yeah, maybe keep a spreadsheet of the tools that excite you and like what they're for. But then I think most critically, before you pick any of them, like where is your pain? What is the most critical pain you're looking at right now? And then starting to narrow down, like, can I get myself some free trials of some of these things? Some of them might have like freemium models where you can. So, whether it's your LLMs, like your ChatGPT or your Gemini, I think Zapier has a freemium model. Like where can you start kind of making inroads? And then very much as Hattie was saying, like when can you start building out your use case as well? I think those are the key things. It just, the kind of like the cross section between tools that are going to solve your pain, but then tools that are like, they seem like they're kind of like sandboxy enough that you could probably play around with them and do a bunch of other really cool things. And there's like whole new mountains of use cases that you haven't thought of right now. That was my Cassidy moment, that for me, kind of using it in a very narrow way, and then understanding, oh, it does a million other things that I won't have time to get around to, but this is a really cool place to start.
I would add to that, it depends on where you are in your strategy way and growth way. Are you already know how to market the product in the most efficient way, like this specific, either it's software, service, whatever. I would focus on the not on the budget, but usually the most simple and at the same time the most complicated part is just to understand, the simple use case, the high probability use case that I will, what is the uniqueness? That's the kind of the obvious part. We're all PMMs here, and this is our job to identify and market it in the right way. But it sounds very obvious, but I see it every day that it is the hardest part to just take away all the unnecessary stuff and try to understand what is those one sentence that will sell your product, that will generate the revenue. Because the strategy, in a nutshell, is just a one simple sentence. I will sell this here to these guys because this does better than those and those. And once you're already on this way, the budget is there is just a matter of like time. But before, if you're not still there, if you're like just trying to shaping your strategy, just the free version of ChatGPT is basically the ultimate thing that the PMI may need, I would say.
Yeah, and the final thing that I would add, such great points, Kate, because it triggered a thought, which was, it's all about how you communicate to the person who has the budget. And basically, if, for example, if they are a high information person, then they require, or a skeptical person, then it requires a lot more information in the business use case to put together in order to get them over the line. So then it becomes a case of, well, part of like managing up is how can I create a use case strong enough that not only builds me up to show, hey, this is someone in the organization who's willing to stand up and speak to this. Because, for example, your framing could be, oh, our competitor is outpacing pacing us, and through these win-loss interviews or through these customer interviews, we've learned that they are speeding up this specific element, and I think hypothetically they could be using an AI tool there. Is there a way that then there's like an inkling of a use case to then use it as a conversation starter? And in some ways, the people above us will actually respect us more because we're able to come up with an idea that is rooted in the outcome at the end of the day, whether it's revenue or reducing churn or whatever it may be. So it's always worth it. Josh, is your question a quick one or? Should be. All right. Let's pan over to Josh. What is your quick question?
First of all, brilliant job, everyone on the panel. Fantastic. A lot of learnings from that process. Couple of observations, and then I'll ask the question. One about salary. Never ever undersell yourselves. If you ever want to hear a story about me increasing my salary by 80% from moving from one job to another, happy to share it at a later date. Secondly, the question from this lady in front of us, from me, about AI. One is with SEO, everyone's looking at rank in the past, to now with social media optimization. How can they get the most comments, feedback, likes, etc.? And now it's all about AI optimization. I'm happy to share some really great insight what we've done. And FAQs is what's really grabbing a lot of AI attention at the moment. Happy to share that with the team. The question for the team is, you guys done a great job in selling AI and the benefits, but can everyone or someone share what the biggest failures you've had with AI?
Yeah, so the first thing that I spoke about was the solution mapping tool where a sales rep drops in their Gong transcript and then it aligns it to our programs. I think I painted that as a very succinct and very smooth process. It very much was not that. It took a couple of months working with that initial kind of tester team to get things correct. There were lots of questions around like what is the right series of prompts to give? How do we make sure that it's not hallucinating? You know, what's the QA process, right? Like, if our sales reps don't necessarily know what is being missold with the technical programs, for example, I need to get the product team involved. We need to have like a regular QA cadence. So I think, yeah, that's probably the best example. But we worked those things out, right? We kept things kind of internal and moved quickly, and I knew that there were going to be things that came up. We had, I think one of the earliest kind of drafts, we weren't quoting directly from like the customer and timestamping. So actually, while we got the quote, we got like the pain point from a customer. The sales reps are saying, yeah, but I have to still go back to the call and like use Gong AI to figure out where that thing was actually being said. It's like, great, okay, let me go back, figure out, can you please cite like timestamp? Didn't say please. Can you timestamp where this customer said this thing and then arrange the context? So then suddenly the output was now this little extra piece. And we did that a dozen times over until we kind of got to the final output. We did have, a sales rep say, well, can I also bring this all together into an email? Still very much human in the loop at the end when it comes to composing the email, but we got that first draft on the page as well. And, the final product from, I guess, February to April when we did the full GTM launch was completely transformative compared to what the MVP that I had, kind of building a quick version of it away by myself. So I think it's keeping your like end user, where if you're building an internal tool and you're not the end user yourself, keeping them close, making sure you've got a contingency for QA as well, and being able to jump on and making sure there's a really free feedback loop for, if you have seen it hallucinate, if it's recommending a product that you don't think is aligned, making sure you do a bit of digging there and understand why.
For me, it was a failure in the previous company with the content writing, when the CEO at that time said, "We don't need the content writers. It's so hard to maintain them, considering that that you have to enable him. He has to have the round of questions and interviews internal." Within the company in order to write an appealing article, and he decided just to replace them with AI, saying that now from that moment everyone can just use AI and publish whatever he wants in our blog post if he has something to say just use AI, it will write you an article, and that was absolutely bad idea. The drop-in visits, not interesting content, and at that moment I said, never ever I will use AI for the final copy. It's just it doesn't make sense. I want to read like something. I just think it's not respectful. I don't want to read something that was not generated by a human. Just if it's, you know what, if it at that point we had the product releases that took us like just one simple sentences, and if it's just one simple sentence, that's okay. Just publish it. Don't add any extra things that trying to make it fancier or something. Just be simple as it is. Yeah, that was my failure.
Yeah, and before Sarah answers, I was actually thinking the other day, Kate, when I was on LinkedIn, at some point the LinkedIn posts are going to be written by AI, and then the comments on LinkedIn posts are going to be written by AI bots. So it's literally written by nothing, read and commented by no one. And it's kind of weird. That made me a little bit spooky.
I think we're already there.
Oh, do you think we're there, Sarah? Oh,
at least some of it. I mean, if you read some of the comments, it's quite clear that it's not very much a person. I think, truth is, the only thing I've ever is not being honest that it was AI that did something for me. I think if we are just more honest to each other, whether it's at work or what AI is helping us with we can show best practice, which actually I think is just kind and helpful. I remember my previous manager was like, hey, Sarah, you wrote such a great email. And it took me a split second. I'm like, Ari, ChatGPT did that. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. I guess my prompt was great.
That's so good, because one of my clients in this room right now works at Amazon. They're a PMM at Amazon. And they told me, Hattie, because I'm coaching them through, I'm just coaching them. Anyway, so they told me, Hattie, you should really tell your other PMMs that when you're asked in an interview, have you used AI as part of your assignment, say yes. And then say that I used AI as part of this assignment because I am forward thinking. I want to use it. I think this is the direction that we're going in. So even if they try to use that question to trip you up or make you feel guilty for using it, actually you have to spin it and make sure that you use that answer to your advantage, which is I am a PMM who uses AI to do effective work. Now look at this effective work and hire me and pay me, girl. So I posted this on LinkedIn a week ago, asking you to comment down below any questions that you have regarding AI in product marketing, in tech, in SaaS, but this applies to all job roles, right? But here were your questions, and they are fantastic. You guys came through. So Laurence at Amazon asked, what's the best way of leveraging AI for sales enablement? I have some ideas, but keen to hear from others. So when it comes to sales enablement, here's a really healthy thought is think about what is it that you're trying to replicate that either you're doing manually or takes time or isn't efficient or requires a lot of different stakeholders. And what is it that you want to build a system out of that then AI can help? Because what I taught on this course is all around how to use AI, but also if you want to go a next level, like 401 of AI use, not to overwhelm you, but it's to create automations between your tools. And then once you create automations, then you're able to get the data into something else, and then it automatically does whatever it is you want, right? So ultimately, if you did want to create an automation that was like, okay, when a new call in gong lands and it's recorded, it automatically goes into a spreadsheet with customer details, customer testimonials. And then from there, from this Google sheet, it then goes into creation of a actual battle card or a one pager through ChatGPT. Like you can actually create that automation as its standalone like function as a system. You can do that with AI agents. You can do it with other tools that actually help you create automations between them. So it's kind of like Zapier, but on steroids. So it totally depends. And I love this question because a lot of other people are thinking it.
But ultimately, when it comes down to sales enablement, it's usually around speed, it's around the amount of collateral, it's around the insights to prepare salespeople correctly for demo calls or prospect calls, or maybe they're trying to close an enterprise deal. And therefore, it's thinking, okay, what is it that currently needs to be done or is automated or is not, or I'm doing week on week, and it's so replicatable that I can actually use software in order to help me doing that, then just test it out. Like, just try it. And I love that you have some ideas. So I would lean into those and just see what happens. But I would love it if you have any insights or how you've been using AI for sales enablement, comment them down below. This is knowledge sharing, right? Everyone becomes stronger once you start knowledge sharing. So I think I read this one. Yeah. This is great because Ali hits a point that I basically mentioned in this course, which is not to think about, okay, how can I force the use of AI? But it's all around thinking about the problem and thinking about the result that you want out of it. So, what is the outcome? So, 100% agree, Ali. Antoinette asks, how can AI assist in keeping a close eye on the market and competitive intel? 100%. So you can either set up an AI agent that scours the internet in order to look for your competitors and gives you updates. Maybe you might even have an automation between a specific chat GPT or an AI agent that then automatically pulls into Slack and gives you updates. Use Completely, or other tools like Clue. Clue have their compete agent, worth looking into as well, because you'll be able to get some insights into your competitors. And fundamentally, just recognize that it will require your eyes at the end of it. So really, 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 I would highly push for you to make sure, and I know you probably know this anyway, but I have to say it just in case anyone's watching and they're just like, the end result is fine. It sometimes hallucinates. So just make sure that you carve out some time to gut check everything and also to actually fact check it. Make sure that it's actually correct and make sure that you're not sharing any intel internally that would be detrimental or is incorrect. You don't want to be the bearer of fake news, right? So just make sure that you look into tools that can actually help. But otherwise, this is basically how it's done. And if you don't want to build it out yourself, then there are tools like Completely, Clue, and others that can definitely help. Okay, so question from Claire around using AI to build buyer personas, doing it now, but with a gazillion tools conjoined together. So unless a tool comes out that's actually built specifically for doing that. And since you mentioned you're using 7 different tools together, dumping them in one place, then using another tool to turn them into something consumable. So I'm actually going to free you right now. I'm going to free you from the idea that you need only 1 or 2 ways to stitch things together. Because bear in mind, the front end of AI is relatively new. The back end of AI is relatively old. So I was actually speaking about AI with my ex, who's a famous software developer. We were speaking about AI and LLMs literally 6 years ago or 7 years ago. And we were speaking about the impact on the world and everything. So the back end was being built by these software developers. And now, as consumers, we're seeing the front end of it in the market. So this is actually very normal because what this is the market hasn't caught up to having use case specific tools to help with every single asset or facet, of our job, right? So this is actually pretty good. And if anything, this is strengthening you to know what goes into the outcome. So then when a tool drops on the market and it says we build buyer personas, you actually know what it takes, and therefore you know what the inputs are in order to get a really great outcome. So I'm going to free you with that is fine. Like, you're doing great, like no problemo. Stitching things together right now is completely fine. Derek asks, given that most organizations operate with disconnected systems and siloed tools across teams, how to ensure AI aggregate data from all sources to deliver a complete unbiased view? Here's my goal as a coach. My goal is to make sure that you future-proof yourself and you make yourself viable and necessary in the market. And also you're providing tons of value to the organization. Now, the legwork, I would imagine, is getting the information from all of these siloed teams. That's the hard bit, right? Really, really hard. When it's disconnected, it's in random places. Maybe it's in their notes app. Maybe it's on a post-it note on their desk. Maybe it's in some random files on in their LMS. Like, just everywhere, right? It's a mess. Now, if you use AI to aggregate the data, but you become the person who then looks across all of the data and you create the trends and the patterns, now here's the thing, with the context of the organization, you become absolutely unfreaking stoppable, Derek. You become so valuable that you're doing the legwork of what other people aren't willing to do. Now, when it comes to AI aggregating the data for you, it will be biased. It will be biased because it doesn't have the full picture. This was kind of similar to a point that I'd made in this course, which was AI doesn't know all of the context behind the egos, the personality, the raising of the funds, the investment rounds, the private equity firm involved. Like it doesn't know, for example, yes, we have our major customer, but we actually frigging hate them and we don't want more of them. AI doesn't know all of this context. So of course it's going to give a biased point of view. So I would highly encourage a healthy point, a healthy thought, a healthy mindset to have is to know that AI is always going to be biased because we cannot, unless it had eyes and ears in the organization, unless we had an AI microphone around everyone at all times, including outside of work. Those conversations at the pub or a restaurant or a bar outside of work, and you're like, I freaking hate this person, or this colleague or this manager is a pain in the butt, or like this customer, my goodness, I just want to, like, etc. AI doesn't have that. And therefore, it actually puts you in a position of power, Derek, because if you're the person who can aggregate the data through the use of AI, which is great, it does the manual legwork, it gets all of the data together. However, you make sure if you're using a custom GPT or a workflow, you add in so many parameters around it. So in the back end, like I was showing earlier, you add so many rules around it, which is basically like, do not change any bit of information. Do not make up information. You have to source everything. It has to be correct. Do not make up any specific statistic or name or customer testimonial if it isn't validated and if it isn't real. Like, just keep honing that to make sure it becomes so bulletproof, or at least like 98, 99% bulletproof, that you're like, okay, now that I have the final outcome, the output that came out of the aggregation of the data, I can look across it. And then what you can do, Derek, is you can create a discussion within the organization from this aggregated data. So then you're not siloing yourself, because the goal is not to silo yourself. The goal is to get the data so then you can have conversations with other team members in the organization. So then what if you did a lunch and learn or a meeting and you invited the heads of and you were sharing this data and you were like, this is what we're seeing across the entire organization, across the board of 500 people in this scale up. Here are the insights that come out of it. Here are the trends. Here are the patterns. I recommend blah, 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 blah. So then that way you're actually using AI to create more discussions, more debates, more strategic conversations and talks. And you're seen as someone who's super valuable in the organization at the exact same time, which is everything. If you've been on my Profitable PMM challenge, you know that I'm a big advocate for you not self-sabotaging yourself or sabotaging yourself in the name of your organization. There, I said it. It's okay, it's biased. If anything, it's probably a good thing, because therefore you still have a job and you still are very much required in there, because you have an unbiased point of view, or at least a less biased point of view, because hey, we're all human, we all have biases, it's fine. Now, Just make sure that you lean into the fact that you can use the information for discussions. I hope that's helpful. Okay, Ralph asks, what's the best way to use AI to create short but on brand marketing videos to use in social, etc.? Yeah, so Michelle mentioned Sora 2, which is great, not necessarily on brand 100. Now, it depends what kinds of videos. If you're looking for demo videos, so videos of the product itself, then honestly, you can use tools like Guideflow. They create interactive demo videos. If you're looking for videos that have a mix of brand and product and maybe even a person, there are a ton of different video tools that now have AI as part of it. And it really does depend on what kind of videos you want to use. But ultimately, and here's another thing, so it's not specific to just videos, but it's to content, it's to the wider marketing function, right? The goal is not to put another person out of their job. So I say this because what if there is a video person in your organization, or what if there is a dedicated content marketer who, as part of the remit of their job, is to create videos? The goal is not to replace their job with the use of AI. And I say that because, especially as a product marketer, which I see you're a global product marketer, so that's amazing. The goal is to get so much buy-in from other people that they absolutely love to work with you. They want to help your project succeed. And also, when you move to a new organization, they want to take you with them. So they want to refer you for new jobs. They want to secure your career. They want to be on your side throughout your career. And then the second thing is it depends on the outcome of the video. If the video is for an ad, then maybe it's a growth marketing remit. Maybe it's a content marketing remit. If the video is for a product, I vouch for interactive demos. I think they're killer. So Guideflow is my fave. I would push for not using AI generated videos that look fake. So I personally would never use Sora. And let me explain my thinking, because I know that there are some people on LinkedIn who use Sora a ton. Now, it's all around brand perception. And I would imagine that a company that has spent years, if not decades, if not hundreds of years building up their company and their brand perception, that they would not want to be associated with the word fake. And Sora, the videos, they look fake and they do not look real. So why on earth would I use a tool to make myself look fake? Like, it makes zero frigging sense. Zero. So once again, there's the principle of what you can do versus what you should do. Just because you can use AI to do it doesn't mean you necessarily should, or that it would necessarily have a positive impact on the brand or on the company. And because you mentioned, Ralph, quite rightfully, it hasn't been on brand because you're asking, but it's on brand. So I would assume you're saying that AI hasn't created on brand videos. Then do not use it for this. And that's fine. Like right now, AI isn't up to scratch on the video creation to make it on brand, and therefore nix it. And that's the art of discernment, which is, will AI, the system of AI, actually help towards a goal, or will it hinder towards a goal? And in this case, it will hinder it. And I don't personally know of any specific tool that I would absolutely vouch for. I hardly ever vouch for specific tools. So the ones that I have mentioned, I'm like, these are legit. Everything else, I'm like, and until it's like 90% really solid, I'm like, I don't play with the devil. Okay, Tanya, Global Product Marketing Lead at Salesforce, has asked, Planning on encouraging discussion around next meetup on how to embrace the right mindset that allows PMMs to move from solo agents to agent orchestration, supporting PMMs go to market. Oh, so good. Okay, I love this. The right mindset to have is basically the one that this course has already covered, and I'm going to hit it again, which is the goal is not to silo yourself or ever, whether it be manual work or with AI. It's not to necessarily, in most cases, be a solo agent or siloing yourself, or to think about things from a isolated lens. It's about how do you build out a system that can work across many teams, many different facets, especially in regards to a go-to-market, where you are enabling this go-to-market launch to be so successful, and you're using AI to create more leverage in the go-to-market as opposed to hindering it. That's the mindset that I would have. The right mindset is of not being a perfectionist, of baby steps, of trying one thing out at a time, and maybe just implementing one change to this go to market before the next one. So then you start to A B test and say, okay, did that actually help towards the go to market? Did it actually align the stakeholders? Did it actually improve our speed or our quality or our effectiveness, etc.? And then so you're not changing too many things with every single go to market that people are left completely confused or discombobulated, and they're like, I do not want to work on the next go to market because the PMM team are just changing everything left, right, and center every frigging time. So if I were you, I would actually, and I love that you're having a discussion around this in Madrid. So I'm super excited to hear about what comes out of it. If it were me, I would encourage, okay, as a team, as a collective team. So whether you've created a RACI or a DACI, so RACI or a DACI is basically how you align your teams. So, for example, a DACI is driver, accountable, contributor, informed, and all of the people that you would associate with those different four. So if I had if I had 20 people involved in the go-to-market, I would encourage discussion around, hey guys, what is it within a go-to-market with you that maybe we could start to bring in AI, or maybe we can start to automate different areas of this? Is there anything that speaks to you on that, or anything that comes to mind? So basically, you're creating now a collaborative discussion around how to start to orchestrate agents or orchestrate your AI usage for your different tools to then support not only your product marketing function, but to support your wider team in the go-to-market. So then everyone loves feeling involved and everyone loves being part of a go-to-market. Basically, you're setting yourself up for success. So once again, it's not just seeing the product marketing function as our own function that we just support one another and we just like help one another, but it's like, how do you create this wider supportive network as a system? So as part of the workbook, there's a PMM from Intercom who spoke at one of my events. And what was fascinating, everyone at that event was like, holy crap. And that was the one event that was like, shoot, I wish I recorded this. She highlighted that the organization structure is completely changing. So people are being removed and stripped of their job titles, their formal job titles, and they're now working in sort of sprint fashions as part of a hackathon. So it actually doesn't matter what your job title is. It's about how you can use AI to get to the end goal, which is wild. Wild. So wild. And I think there's something to be said here about that as well, which is, imagine if the organization stripped us of all of our job titles. So there were no firm lines, but all the lines were blurred. How do we then use AI and AI agents and generative AI in order to allow us to work better, or to be more effective, and to just think about the output? just think about the outcome. Because once the lines are removed, all you really care about, all you really focus on is just the output, the outcome. That's it. So that's just a healthy mindset, a healthy thought that I would throw into your discussion as well. Hong asks how to use AI to help with the infographic design that is targeted to your audience. What are the best practices? Yeah. So Michelle mentioned some good ones. They're cool. I have used Napkin AI. It's okay. I've used ChatGPT to create icons. So, and then I use those icons as part of an infographic design. I know that Say What, I think it's saywhat.io, they now have a infographic generator. So it's worth looking into those. And basically, it's either a mix of, if you want the final infographic made by AI, it's going to look very AI. Now, if you want AI to create areas of your infographic that you then put together, then you can do that as well. I know that Canva, they have specific areas where you can use AI to create specific designs, and then you can add those in. So then you're the one who's creating, again, you're the one who's kind of orchestrating the infographic, as opposed to wanting it to give you the exact right outcome. So I would highly recommend, and this is a fun one, tinkering around, because as you probably know, I create infographics on LinkedIn. So I test out all the tools, anything that's like, oh, this is going to make my life easier or whatever. But for me right now, I just use AI to create specific icons, specific areas, and then I put it together. So I think that there's going to be massive headway made in the future, but right now it's going to be a little bit more manual. Michaela asks around hallucination of AI, or straight up making things up when you do competitor research, really throwing you off. Need to be extremely accurate. Any help would be great. Yeah, a few people have felt that, Meredith. Noticed that ChatGPT doesn't have access to LinkedIn, which is now a huge part of how companies in your industry communicate with consumers. Oh, so good. Any recommendations on what AI to use to easily pull in competitive insights from LinkedIn would be great. Holy crap, these are great questions. Yeah, so definitely recommend testing out Gemini, Claude. I think that maybe, because there is some ways that software companies, so for example LinkedIn, they might have a functionality within their hard code that says AI may not use anything that is from their website, so you can actually have it hard coded within the software that says AI may not, absolutely not use this. So the only way that I can think about getting LinkedIn information into competitive intel without the use of AI is going to be a mix of manual and then AI, meaning you will be the one, Meredith, to get the information and the links and the data, and then have AI update it. So whether this is done on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, it might have to be that. When it comes to the hallucination, this is a big issue. It really is. This is why I highlighted in the creating a custom GPT, how important it is to potentially build one out yourself, because then you can start to control the hallucinations. You can start to control the tuning of the AI, right? And what's great is once you create the backend, the settings to a custom GPT, you can then copy and paste it into other generative AI tools. So just because, for example, I did a custom GPT, I could literally copy that backend description, which is like, do not do this, do not make up whatever, and then pop it into Claude or pop it into Gemini. So you can do that. That will definitely help. It really will, because you're tuning the output based on what you're then putting into the input of the custom GPT. I think that is your solution, Michaela. I would highly recommend giving that a try and then letting me know down below in the comments what impact it has. Okay, Laura, Dana, how to create an effective pricing strategy with the help of AI. Ooh, so good. Okay, so firstly, an effective pricing strategy, in my opinion and from my clients, should not be done without the CRO involved or someone in revenue. So usually they are the ones who set the pricing. Now, you can do the market research in regards to what are the competitors doing, what do customers say, why your churn reasons are potentially pricing, etc. You can get all of that. Now, here's a level 401 of where I see AI and pricing going. So, you know, with Uber, that they have the demand supply based pricing, which is completely automated. If it's raining, the price goes up by a specific amount. It's like, okay, we've 1.4x your price because there's a lack of drivers. And it's basically like, it's because the demand is high because everyone's in the car because it's raining. Like, no one wants to walk. I foresee that software is going to be the same. I can foresee that the pricing will automatically change on the website depending on the demand and the supply. I think that's the route that we're going towards. It's like the route of true personalization and customization, but also pricing strategy based on geography as well. So I know that with VPNs, people can bypass and get Netflix for like frigging $2 in Bali if they set their geography there, versus if you're in the US. Now, for some reason, I foresee that as well, which is instead of just having dollar-based pricing, I can foresee it being geography-based and very customized and specific. And potentially even taking into account automatically the information that comes in from customer calls or closed deals, and being able to take that information and then automatically start to update the pricing. So I know that that's like absolute future hypotheses, but that's kind of where I see it going. When it comes to doing it now, effective pricing strategy, it's a mix of the market research piece. It's a mix of, okay, what can you use? What can you do with AI to help the CRO make this decision, or to help enable them, or to potentially show a dashboard of what has been the old pricing of a competitor versus now, or etc., etc. So again, it's not just the thinking of, and this isn't specific to just this question, but in general, it's not just thinking, I want to use AI for every frigging thing. It's about, what is the output or the outcome that we want out of this? And do we require AI for this? Or do we require someone else on the team? But there are different ways to combat the topic, and whether it requires AI or not is totally down to you and your organization. But I would highly recommend syncing up with members of your team in your revenue ops team, so they can start to help and they can start to assist. And maybe they don't even need the use of AI. Maybe they just needed a 30-minute call with you to understand your view on the landscape. So once again, it's not about doing more for more sake. It's about doing work for effectiveness sake. Okay, next question. Okay, so Meredith asked around hallucination. The statistics and the customer testimonials were off. Yes, so I think this can be solved by a custom GPT, and you having the white papers and the downloadables and the attachments in the settings, and mentioning, do not, absolutely without any doubt, like, do not create anything or source anything that isn't true, that isn't correct, and making sure you absolutely fine tune it on the back end. That's a killer tip that I would recommend in regards to that. Like tuning the piano, you're just tuning your AI. And yeah, I think that would be a quick fix for you. So let me know how it goes. Comment down in the comments below. Okay, so Adelia, eager to learn more about AI tools that can streamline data validation and enhance the development of sales enablement materials. Okay, I feel like we've covered this one. So I feel like there's a lot of duplicated questions all around these two, they're kind of around asset creation, cross-functional alignment, updating resources, and accurate information. Okay, so the goal is fundamentally for you to be absolutely frigging valuable and irreplaceable in your organization. That comes from you having the cross-functional alignment across different teams. And AI assists in either the proactive tasks, so proactive meaning the admin, the daily running of your job, anything that you see that you keep doing either on a monthly or quarterly basis or even on a daily basis. Or maybe that the other teams that you require information from them, how do you get the information from them without their manual effort? So if some salespeople, for example, are so annoyed that they need to invite you into calls live, etc., then how about you have a system that automatically gets you a recording or pings you when a recording lands in Gong, or pings you when like an information or a customer testimonial is updated or whatever. So then you're always in the know. Here's a point of value that I don't think a lot of people think about, that if you do spend a lot of time on something and it's super valuable to a ton of people, and especially the killer people in the organization, you have made yourself really freaking valuable. So if you're like, I looked across and I was pinged automatically all of these different customer calls, but then I reviewed 50 plus calls, 50 plus hours of customer calls with your discovery, for example, with your AEs, your account executives, like a very specific niche of the sales team, with your account executives. And I noticed this, when you mention this, you close deals faster than when you mention XYZ, that. They're going to be like, holy freaking crap. No one has taken the time. No one has strategically thought about the system. No one has systems frigging thinking here. They're all thinking about how do we make deals, like panicking. And you're the person who comes along really calm and collected, and you say, I have looked across blah, blah, blah. With the assistance of AI, I have looked across XYZ calls, 100 plus calls, or literally all of our calls made to date in our AI team, and then in our AE team, and then in our BDM team, so business development manager team, like etc. And then you just provide them with insights that make their jobs easier and better. Holy frigging crap, dude! Holy crap! As opposed to, so that's like mastery. As opposed to you using AI to then pull in information, it's incorrect, and then you pass off this incorrect information, and you're like, okay, well, what do I do with this? Do I either share it with them, or obviously not, because it's incorrect. So now you've just wasted your time. It's not useful. And then you're like, let me just move on to our next project or our next task, or I have my next meeting. And it's like, what the heck? It's because there was no system behind it. There was no thinking, or like there was no actuality in, okay, what is this strategically doing, and what is the output that I want to create, and also what is the feeling also that I want to create out of people that work with me specifically. I don't think enough. I think, oh gosh, okay, I'm on my rant soapbox era. So I think because, and I work with so many frigging clients that I absolutely adore, and I think it's because, unfortunately, what makes an excellent marketer, and especially a product marketer, is the fact that we are empaths. We care. And sometimes we care too much that you do not put yourself at the front. You do not put yourself in the limelight. And because of that, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot, because you make it all about the work and the outputs and the collateral, and not about how is it that I can not only provide the collateral, but I can look freaking amazing at the exact same time? So then when the time comes for a layoff, they're like, there is no freaking way we're getting rid of the person who looked across hundreds of hours and provided us with insights, which then enabled us to literally make millions. I feel like I'm frigging ranting, but it needs to be said. I think this is why I absolutely shock people when they spend time with me. Like when my clients or my prospects, like they join my masterclass, like I have a complimentary masterclass that I sometimes throw, and they're like, oh, holy crap, dude. They're literally like, I have been putting myself last in my career. I've been putting myself last in everything that I do. Because you've now realized that you have just been a workhorse for this organization. And when I see questions that are orientated around collateral and how can AI, it's basically like you're asking me, how can AI do my job? How can AI do everything that I do? And unfortunately, that's the wrong way of thinking about it. Another healthy mindset that I would push here is we had the Abacus. An Abacus, like this was what was used to calculate maths. This was what was used as a calculating tool. Now, imagine when the calculator came along, where people were like, oh, the calculator is going to do all of my maths for me all of the time. Like if you did 2 plus 2, would you put it into a calculator? Or even if you had an equation, would you put the entire equation into a calculator? No, you would do some of the equation on a piece of paper, and then maybe in specific areas you would use a calculator. A calculator is literally AI for this. The calculator is literally the AI equivalent for this. It's an automated way. It's a piece of technology. It's a system within a calculator that can do this. Instead of doing it the manual way of your numbering, you're using a calculator. Now, when it comes to AI, as it is with a calculator, you wouldn't use a calculator for every single maths problem or every single equation or everything that you would come across. You wouldn't. You would sometimes do it in your head. You wouldn't go to a shopping mall or a food shop and have a calculator with you putting in every single number. But maybe the person at the till will. Imagine if the person who's, at the till that they're like, doot, 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 and they're using an Abacus to count up how much you need to pay. Like, no, it's not going to happen. So my story, the point, the mindset out of this is AI shouldn't be a calculator that's used for everything. AI shouldn't be used for everything. A healthy mindset is, what is it within your role specifically that can help enable it so you become stronger, like a transformer? You're adding on shields, you're adding on like new technology to make yourself frigging unbeatable, So that's what I would say on that. Otherwise, I feel like I've covered these questions. So take action, test things out, tinker, play around. You are now a child in an adult's body where nothing can go wrong. The goal is to just test out AI tools, see what works for you, see what you learn from it, and just have a good time trying things out. So the workbook link is down below for all of your downloadables. Also share this with other PMMs that you work with, or your wider PMM team, or your wider marketing team. Let them learn from what you have. If you found this really valuable, I would highly encourage you to like this, to comment down below. And also, I would love to see you on the Profitable PMM Challenge. Your first step is to join my live complimentary masterclass. So if you join down below, there's a link, then you'll be able to come along to my next live masterclass. And I would love to see you there. So if you found this useful, please comment down below. I would love to hear from you. A lot of work has gone into this, a lot of heartfelt, solid market research, a lot of thinking on my own terms, thinking about how easy I can explain it. So if you found this useful, comment down below and I will see you in the next one.